The college football experience 2024 Big Ten conference schedule breakdown and coaching carousel episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Yes, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today, people. We're also brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US based and available in 40 different states. Head to cut.com. That's KUTT.com. Use that promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. And we're also brought to you by the SGPN merch store. 15% off everything when you use the promo code playoffs. So what are you doing, folks? Do that. And remember, as always, to let it ride.
Hey, this is Derek Stevens. I'm the owner of Circa Las Vegas. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Yes, yes, yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. Big Ten 2024 conference breakdown. Conference schedule breakdown. Yes, and coaching news is obviously it's mid-January. We're getting heavy amounts of coaching news every time you sign online. Hopefully you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/the college experience, because, well, I'm excited for this episode. I've been building shit behind the scenes. All right. I'm just over there. Look at this guy. This guy's camera coming straight out of Afghanistan. He's back. Folks, if you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, tailless pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
Sir, we have a brand new 18-team Big Ten conference. I gotta be honest, way more excited about the SEC's new teams than the Big Ten's. Like, it just doesn't fit.
I'm still pretty excited too, because the Big Ten has been so predictable for the last 5 years. It's been a two-horse race, basically.
Well, no, I'm saying that I think, like, going through these games, I think I get more excited of, like, Florida at Texas, and then there's so much shitty teams in the Big Ten. And look, we'll get to it. Hang on. I am joined by, well, I think he's here, my co-host.
I'm still here.
Give it up for former JMU Duke defensive back. Folks, if you're not watching on YouTube right now, you're missing out on the humor. Give it up for the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, Patty C in the place to be.
Live from a bunker.
Straight out of Afghanistan. This is definitely, you're using the same program Osama bin Laden used to send. There you go.
Up.
There you go.
The Houthi missiles have stopped raining down on me, and we're good for a minute.
You still on dial-up?
Yeah. You're working with a Packard Bell over there. Anyway, we're also joined by third man in the booth. Give it up for the DFS god himself, the rooftop IPA drinking, homebrew making, tobacco road living, the free lot giving, former Herndon Basketball League MVP. Give it up for NC Nick in the place to be.
There we go. Happy Wednesday, guys. Wednesday's good because it means we get to talk college football.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Best day of the week. Hump day, baby.
And as college football continues to shift more and more to, like, just news every day. I feel like 10 years ago you would never get this type of news this late. Obviously the Saban thing happened. We touched on that last week, but in the past week, that's Betty.
We're just gonna have to
I'm here. I'm just doing work.
Yeah, you can just do audio. It's fine. It's fine. We know you're out there. Kalen DeBoer is now hired by takes Washington to the national championship, and GBO Farms getting in there. The picture from the moon in the '60s was clearer than Patty C's cam.
Well, considering that was made in Hollywood, I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
That, right?
Stanley Kubrick was working on that one.
Same technology.
What do you guys make of Kalen DeBoer getting hired by? I mean, this is a home run hire in a way. This is a guy who just took Washington to the national championship. But as you see, all of Alabama's players are hitting the portal, including like some of their best players are hitting the portal.
It's going to happen regardless of the coaching change. You know, I don't care who they brought in. That was probably going to happen anyway.
It's a little surprising in Alabama for that to happen.
No, I think though, a lot from what I understand, like a lot of players they commit to Saban. They don't. They would even take pay cuts to play for Saban. Essentially, is like if Texas was offering more money, they would say, "No, I'm going to Alabama because Nick Saban. Give me the NFL." And now
he is a fucking legend, so
yeah,
I can see that.
Well, so am I, and no one's taking pay cuts from me. All right, but what do you make of the hire, Nick?
Overall, I think it's a good hire. I mean, it's remarkable that 3 years ago he was the head coach of Fresno State. And he was only the head coach of Fresno State for a couple of years. And before that, he was offensive coordinator at Indiana. So 5 years ago, he was OC at Indiana. So to make that big of a jump in a short time frame to be the head coach of Alabama is just crazy. But I mean, who could they have hired that's better? I think it's a good hire.
I mean, well, I agree. But at the same time, I just don't. Shout out to him for being fearless and say, I don't give a shit about favor. It's an honor to favor a legend. Cause
follow a legend rather.
Yeah. What did I say?
Favor.
Yeah, my bad. Follow a legend. I would just say like, what is that? Like if you go 9-3 and you barely miss out on the playoffs, how long's that leash?
You can always fall back though. I think when you're a head coach, you know, shoot for the moon and make as much money as possible. I mean, who was it that said that 90% of head coaches, it's going to end badly at some point, meaning you're going to probably get fired at some point. Very few of them get to call their own shots and retire when they want to, like Saban did. So you know what? How are you going to turn down Alabama is the better question. This is one of the top 5 football programs in the history of college football. So how are you going to turn that down? Washington, look, I mean, no disrespect to Washington. They're a fine program with a nice history as well, but they're not Alabama. They're not in the SEC. It's kind of hard to turn that down. So say, you know what, even if he fails, first off, you should never be afraid of failing because these head coaches, they didn't get to where they've gotten to because they've been afraid of failing. Okay. So they're not the cautious type. You know, this guy was coaching in Sioux Falls 15 years ago. So, look, man.
But you get a longer leash at Washington.
Yeah, but you know what? Even if you don't have a long leash, even if he fizzles out in 4 years, he's going to make a shit ton of money. He's going to have a huge payout, and he's going to get another really good job. So why not try to land one of the best jobs in college football?
Yeah, I mean, come on. I'm with you, but I don't with making the national championships this year is where you hesitate to me. It's like you would get a long leash at Washington. And I also think it's a lot easier beating these. And we're going to talk about these Big Ten teams. I think there's a lot of shitty teams in the Big Ten. I think the SEC is even like right now, I think Florida's shitty. They can kickstart their program really fast. It's not like Minnesota, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think Minnesota's shitty right now, but it's just different. It's just different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like where
but again, these guys are egomaniacs, man. They've never backed down from a challenge, so they're not afraid of it.
Well, maybe he's planning on. Hey, I'm still here. Maybe he's planning on going to the pros. Maybe he's got. I mean, it is a great question. If you are trying to like map your career arc as a coach, going to a place where you just can't meet the standard that the expectations that they have, it's like you said, probably going to end poorly for you. But maybe you can sustain it, and certainly you're going to make a lot of money in the meantime. I mean, maybe Alabama fans end up having realistic expectations and he can win, a championship or two over the next 6-7 years. And, he's looked at as a solid replacement for Saban. But I don't know. I kind of agree with you. But then again, if you were at Indiana 5 years ago, you don't know how long that, that iron's going to stay hot. You kind of got to strike,
These guys are all alpha males.
These
guys are all alpha males. They're not sitting there like, well, maybe I have a better chance here. No, they want to coach for the best programs. They want to make the most money, and more power to them. Why not?
Do you remember when Alabama hired the last Washington head coach? He never coached a game. His name was Mike Price, and he went to the strip club. And Alabama acted like that was the most egregious thing that's ever fucking happened in college football, because Mike Price successfully sued Alabama in Sports Illustrated, I believe. But I just think if Kalen DeBoer at Washington, you're like, man, Harbaugh might not be coming back. We are one of the top 4 programs, where it's like, I understand Alabama's right now one of the top 4, but I don't know in this new SEC, if you struggle just a little bit with Oklahoma, Texas, LSU, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee's on the rise, like that fucking Texas A&M, I didn't even mention, you know what I mean? Mizzou's looking stronger. To me, it's like, I get it, but I also,
maybe we're arguing two different things here. I agree that Alabama and the SEC is tougher than the Big Ten, for sure.
And I also think their fan base is going to be, if you're not I think it's a good hire, but I also think he's probably not coaching Bama in 5 years.
That's tough. I mean, it's always tough to follow up a legend that won. How many? What's
6?
Oh, did we lose Nick? This is fucking. Maybe. This is going fantastic to start the fucking day.
Isn't this 2024? Yeah. Isn't the internet supposed to work for everyone by now?
What the fuck is going on here?
Where was I? Where did I leave off?
You never made a point.
Oh. I was just talking for a couple of minutes. Well, there were great points.
Arguing two things. I think you were saying.
No, I just think that it's always hard to follow a legend like Saban. Obviously, the guy won 7 national championships in 17 years, I think. I mean, so will DeBoer be able to do that? Highly unlikely.
But at the same time, like, I almost feel like it's easier to get to the playoffs as Washington.
For sure. No, I agree. I think everybody has to look at the Big Ten versus the SEC and say, the SEC is tougher right now. I think that's hands down, because
dude, the Big Ten was the worst. I know it's a Big Ten pod, and maybe we're getting some listeners that are checking us out for the first time. But in my opinion, the Big Ten was the worst conference in college football at Power 5 this past season.
But they did win the national championship.
True.
And that's a big feather in your cap. So yeah, depth wise, for sure, there was a lot of bad Big Ten teams this year, especially offensively. But like I was saying earlier, the Big Ten's been so predictable the last few years because it's basically been a two-horse race. There's 2 really good teams, and then there's a lot of I mean, Penn State, they're a good team, but they've never really threatened to. I guess a couple of times they were knocking on the door to make the playoffs, but other than that, the Big Ten West has been very. They've been very average, not great for a long time. So yeah, adding these 4 teams is going to bolster. It's going to be tougher. I mean, these 4 teams have done well for the last 5 years, if not for the last decade or so, but the SEC is definitely tougher. So to your point, yes, staying at Washington gives you a better chance of making the playoffs.
And he's got a longer leash because he just took them to the national championship. So true. I feel like he could even have like down seasons at Washington. You go into Alabama and you go 8-4 next year. The heat is on.
True. But don't forget, now we have an expanded playoff, so it's easier to make the playoffs.
Well, that's why I find it even, but no, I also think it's harder though, in a way. Like it's easy. Yes, it's easier for an SEC or Big Ten team too, but I also think you're adding Oklahoma and Texas. There's a reason why I think Saban said, you know what, I'm going to dip out this year.
I don't think Saban was scared of Oklahoma or Texas. I just think the guy's in his 70s. He had nothing left to prove, and the changing landscape of college football.
Fuck that. He definitely
He
was
getting old
struggling
as
ever
shit,
since
though.
NIL happened.
That's a different
happened,
story.
yeah,
I was just
yeah.
about to say the changing landscape of college football,
Struggling.
not
He was-
necessarily realignment, but more NIL.
Struggling.
And transfer portal.
He wasn't sniffing the national championships. My point.
I mean, if you
He
really
sniffed it this
consider-
year.
Yeah, Michigan
Yeah,
and
went to
Alabama
overtime.
may
They
have
didn't
been the real
belong in the
national
fucking
championship.
playoffs this year. Get the fuck out of here.
They
They
still
lost
made it.
one game.
They needed a 4th and 20. Get the fuck. They were an incredibly flawed team. The fuck
they
out
were
of here. You're
still
gonna
in
put Liberty- you're gonna put Liberty
overtime.
in the playoffs too, Patty C.
They were
What's
still
that?
in,
Liberty.
they were in overtime to be in the national championship. So I'd say they sniffed it.
Okay, but clearly from an eye test, they did not look like the same. I would argue that this was the worst Alabama team since Mike Shula.
Yes, I mean, the last couple of years, Alabama dropped a hair. They didn't drop a lot, but
This
they
year
dropped a
specifically.
hair.
This year specifically. Last year, I would say no. I don't even think they dropped that much. This year,
They
they
didn't
were
have the same weapons that they normally would have.
yes, and
whether
the
it be
O
running
line
back,
sucked.
receivers,
The O line sucked. Yeah, so I just find it ironic that everyone starts paying players, you know. But
Here's the other thing about DeBoer he had the number 100 defense in the country this past year. Is he just going to be basically Lane Kiffin in the at Alabama? I mean, you're not coming in with 10 number 1 recruiting classes in a row. That thing has already been decimated. So your talent may be similar to what Ole Miss is bringing in, and if your system and your scheme is the same, you might be an 8-4 team at the end of the year. Now, granted, Lane Kiffin went 11-2, so that's probably what they'll look like for the first few years. But if there's some regression, then yeah, maybe he doesn't last that long unless the defense looks a little better moving forward.
yeah, and what do you think about that? That is a rumor that's going around right now. They put Saban in the playoffs specifically because they knew he was on the way out the door.
That would make sense. ESPN especially, especially if he's
Yeah,
gonna
He's
be
like, hey, Greg Sankey, check us out. I think it's gonna be my final year. Oh, we'll get you into the playoffs.
Hey, if Hollywood can show somebody landing on the moon in the 60s, then the NCAA could do this.
All right,
It,
so
it
let's
makes
talk about.
college day game day a better product when he's on it and had been to the had some recent success.
Now let's talk about the other side of this coin because I can't help but laugh when I think about Jedd Fisch. I mean, I have no problem. I know Arizona's in a financial crisis. Their athletic department. I read a story on that like 6 months ago where they're struggling to make. They I think they borrowed a shit ton of money, and ever since COVID, they've just had a nightmare. I think the enrollment's down too a little bit. So he gave them a chance to match. They couldn't match because now they got that Big Ten blood money, and he jumps to Washington. Now I'm not surprised the one bit, but I do find it hilarious that he was on Jim Rome 72 hours before that, doubling down, saying, "I'm not going anywhere. I am building this thing in Tucson." All right. So every time we bring up these players leaving, you look at Jedd Fisch, you say, man, this is a perfect example of why the players should have the right to fucking leave. Because I mean, what a fucking politician after that interview. It could have been worse for him. I don't think I would have took the job just off of that. I would have been like, no, I just did live TV 72 hours ago. But anyway, what do you make?
What
of
was
the
his
hire?
raise?
What's that?
If the raise was several $1 million, I think you'd get over it pretty quickly.
I don't know.
72 hours is actually a pretty long amount of time. I mean, it's not like Midnight Mel Tucker who was saying it like earlier that day or something. 72 hours is like a lifetime.
That's true.
But, so look, man, it's like this is not the first coach to do this. It's not the last. It's just part of what happens. So I'm not going to throw too much shade at Fisch.
No, I'll throw some shade at the hire though. If Noah Fafita doesn't come in, Arizona was not looking amazing. So to me, like I would like a bigger sample size to know that he's a great coach, because the 2 years prior before, like, yes, he built them up, but they didn't look very good with Jaden DeLora this year. And a little weary that just 3 year sample size I just think maybe there might have been better. I would have wanted another year or two before I made that hire.
Well, Kalen DeBoer has about a 4-year sample size. So,
well, he had Sioux Falls.
Okay. Yeah, true.
Like Jedd Fisch was never a head coach. If anything, Jedd Fisch leaves every 2 years. Look at his career.
Right.
This guy's 47 years old. He's been at 18 different jobs. How the fuck's that even possible? Yeah.
I still though, as far as the timing, like again, I think it's a good hire because who else are you going to get? Especially, most of the coaching changes took place in December or so. So at this point, I think Washington did well for themselves.
I don't know.
They were pretty damn hot this year.
Yeah, I mean, they just played for the national
championship.
championship.
Tell me who would have been a better hire.
Arizona was pretty damn hot
for sure.
Yeah, but I would just like a bigger sample size because.
And Colby, give him credit for recruiting in Noah Fajita.
Yeah,
and then also having the balls to start the true freshman over a very experienced quarterback. So
DeLore got injured. That was a beautiful accident. Accident. Yeah,
true. But he rode with Fajita and didn't bring back DeLore in. So I don't know. I think it was a good hire. Tell me where Washington would have done better.
Well, they had that Big Ten money. To me, like Lance Leipold, they were trying to get. He withdrew his name. So I can understand that one, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know who else they interviewed. You know what I mean? I know Ryan Grubb, the OC, was one.
Did they interview Jim Harbaugh? Because everybody else is.
I don't know. Look, I'm not saying it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
I would just like I'd like to see him win more because he had 2 losing seasons his first 2 years, and then he caught lightning in a bottle, and a lot of that might have been by accident with Noah Fafita coming in for James.
What the exact parallel is? Sonny Dykes last year.
Yes.
His quarterback gets injured game 2, and he has to use the backup and goes to the national championship, loses.
That's true. And I was going to say, say this happened last year. Say Washington got hot and went to the playoffs or the national championship last year, and DeBoer left. I don't think Jedd Fisch would have been on their radar.
Not at all. Not at all. That's what I'm saying. That's my point. Is like, I don't know. There's other names out there that I think could have been considered, head coaches. I don't know. I'm not ready to say that's a slam dunk.
It didn't seem fluky this year. They seemed legit good pretty much across the board. In
not
all
early,
facets.
not with Jaden DeLore.
Not early on. No, yeah. Maybe if Fafita makes that big of a difference, but they only lost 3 games, and they were all pretty respectable games against really good teams. And the rest, they beat a bunch of pretty damn good teams. They were a legit, really good team this year.
Yeah, and so now Arizona went out and hired Brent Brennan, who almost was hired over Jedd Fisch originally. They both interviewed. They were the finalists. Now he's hired. He has ties to Dick Tomey in Arizona, and he comes in there now. I actually think this is kind of like, if you're an Arizona fan, this is like best case scenario. I know GBO Farms was saying Tedford. I think Tedford is cool with where he's at.
Yeah,
he's a guy who's had health problems.
His age and his health problems, I think he's happy at Fresno. I think I agree.
I think the Brennan hire is a slam dunk, though. I was just reading a story on what he was. He was the guy fundraising the money. Like he would go try to get money into the fucking program. He's talking to people. Like San Jose State doesn't give a shit about their football program. So
he's selling candy bars door to door.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great hire for them, and I think he had San Jose at the best it could. I mean, I know they're in California, so you think like, okay, they're surrounded by talent, but if they don't care about football, that's a concern.
Well, we just saw what the state of California is trying to do with the sport of football, or at least youth football.
Yeah,
eliminate tackling before the age of 12.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Every Pac-12 stereotype is about to get 10 times worse. Not that the Pac-12 even exists.
I'd say another concern, if you so he had a really good COVID year. Remember that special season where San Jose State went 7-1. Funny enough, they lost to Arizona in the bowl game, I believe. Other than that, his record at San Jose State is not very good. I mean, he inherited a bad team. He went 2-11, 1-11, 5-7.
5-7 with the win at Arkansas.
And then he had that special year in 2020. He followed that up with 5-7, 7-5, 7-6. So if you're saying this is a slam dunk hire, I'd say pump those brakes a little bit.
Really?
I know you've been a big Brennan guy, but I think San Jose State has been, I don't know. I mean, they've been solid.
I think to go 7-5 at San Jose State's like going 10-1 or 10-2 at Boise. You know what I mean?
In his 7th year, he goes 7-6. That's not anything great. I don't know if that's reason
they don't
for
care
promotion.
about football, dude. They don't care. You know what I mean? Like that. I think that's an unbelievable job. I think that's actually one of the best coaching jobs in America.
Well, when you say they don't care about football, I mean, there's only so much that the institution's resources impact a coach's performance. You know, obviously X's and O's is a big deal. Recruiting is definitely strongly impacted by the university's investment, but still, there's a shit ton of talent in that area. Doesn't mean he's necessarily going to get it. There's a shit ton of talent in Miami. FIU doesn't get it all.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
I mean,
it's a commuter school. No one's interested in donating money. Like I said, and now the NIL era, we saw that Malachi Nelson goes to Boise State and make $1 million. You know what I mean? Like,
that much talent in Northern California.
I think there's a fair amount.
The days of OJ Simpson aren't. But yeah, I mean, they got.
Isn't most of the talent in Southern California?
True, but Brock Bowers and stuff. You still have those like farming fucking towns.
Anytime you have that many people, period.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess New York City kind of refutes.
I guess my point was that Northern California and Southern California are like different states. I don't think you can lump them in and say San Jose State should be killing it in San Diego and in LA.
I just think it's different. San Diego State's investing in their football program. You know what I mean? San Jose State's not.
Yeah.
That's why that's what I'm saying is like, that's why I think 7 wins is, I think, fantastic there. I think it's like a 10-win season elsewhere in the Mountain West at a lot of schools.
I agree. I don't know about a 10 win, but it's certainly above 7 wins at most other places.
I bet you if you looked at what money is spent in the Mountain West, I think them in New Mexico would be the lowest. Maybe Hawaii.
I think he's done
Hawaii too. Hawaii too. Yeah.
I think he's done a pretty good job too, but a pretty good job in the Mountain West doesn't mean you're ready to start coaching a, I guess P4 is that where we're? Yes, P4. That's what the terminology is now. I don't know if that means you're ready to take over a P4 program.
Really, I think that's a slam dunk. I think he's a better football coach than Jedd Fisch.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think Jedd Fisch has done very well in 3 years.
Lightning in a bottle.
Let me ask you this:
yeah.
Arizona in the packed, or I guess the Big 12 landscape. Now, are they similar in the pecking order to what San Jose State would be? Or they probably have more resources, you know.
Well, that's what's hilarious is he goes from one broke school to another broke school.
Well, maybe that's why they hired him. He can drive a beater car.
Yeah. But either way, so also Kalen DeBoer went out and hired. This is what's just shocking to me is Kane Womack leaves South Alabama to be the new defensive coordinator of Alabama. Remember, they were both on the staff with Tom Allen at Indiana. And if anything, I think Tom Allen better get hired again because God damn it. Look at this.
Or you could argue the opposite was that he had a great staff and he still couldn't win. Granted,
true, but you got to recognize the talent though, man. You got to recognize that talent. If I'm Buffalo, who just lost Maurice Lindquist also to the Alabama staff, now he was probably on the hot seat. The South Alabama one's the more shocking one. Buffalo should call up Tom Allen if I'm them and say, hey, you know, maybe or a Leipold guy. I don't know, but your thoughts on this is going to be the norm now, and it's terrible in my opinion. But where you got head coaches leaving for coordinator positions at the SEC or Big Ten,
right? Because let's face it. The FBS is not one equal level, and the haves and have-nots, the separation between the two is going to get much, much different. And so it's basically like, you know, FBS to FCS, and we see FCS head coaches taking, you know, assistant coaches' jobs. So we're going to see more of it for sure.
And
I don't think that that's necessarily something super new.
Really?
You know,
what
might be. Yeah, I don't have.
I've heard of FCS coaches back in the day. I've not heard of FBS coaches leaving a head coaching position to be a coordinator elsewhere. Unless it was the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, the first example that comes to mind was only last year with Sean Lewis going to Colorado, but I guess that's a statement that kind of supports what you're saying. There's so much more money at Colorado that even a MAC school, which isn't that far worse than Colorado's been, maybe better, but the money's better.
Yeah.
And the opportunities.
I think it's a newer thing.
Yeah.
It might be a newer thing. But that said, Kane Womack, I think it's an upward move, career-wise. So if you're a national championship defensive coordinator, that's more than any number of 10-win seasons in a row. You can, as far as getting an SEC gig, a head coaching gig, you could go 10.
South Alabama is a team that could make with the one auto bid for like South Alabama is among I would say if you had to rank 10 teams, outside it's like Boise, Liberty, Memphis, South Alabama's got to be close to there.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong because
not really. I don't think
Mike
you're wrong,
Norvell.
Patty. I don't think you're wrong though, because a few years ago Georgia hired the defensive coordinator for Alabama, and how's that working out?
Wait, Kirby Smart?
Yeah.
Wait, what? I'm confused.
But Liberty just hired Auburn just hired Liberty's head coach. So I think performing on an elite level at a G5 may be similar to performing at an elite level as a coordinator at a Power 5.
Well, my point was that Patty said going to be the DC of Alabama or a team contending for a national championship is a good career move. And that makes sense considering Georgia hired a former DC at Alabama, and now he's regarded as one of the best head coaches in the country with multiple national championships.
Fair, but that was also with Nick Saban. I don't know. We could sit here and spitball, but anyway, so they went out. South Alabama hired Major Applewhite today. He was their offensive coordinator. I thought he got a raw deal at Houston. I'm glad to see Major back at it. He got a raw deal in college too. Those bastards starting Chris Sims over him. He was way better than that piece of shit. And yeah, Major Applewhite's the hire. So Buffalo and San Jose State, the two open jobs. I don't know. What do they do? I wonder if the San Jose State try to get Mike McIntyre back. No, I don't know. Can they persuade, Dan Hawkins? Can they get, someone like that? I don't know.
Dan Hawkins has to be getting up there, man.
Well, he retired from UC Davis, but I feel like can offer this offseason. So
neither school has a standout like alum / former coach.
San Jose State's got Dick Vermeil. So I mean,
okay,
he's 84 years old. He's been on the show.
I think he's enjoying his winery right now. I don't think he's ready to jump back into the fray.
But yeah, I mean, Buffalo to me, Tom Allen. They should call Tom Allen.
Yeah.
San Jose State. There's some options out there for San Jose State. I would say Nick Rolovich, but they would never do that.
Not San Jose State. No.
Yeah, not San Jose State.
They're not in an area where they can take that kind of.
They don't want to win. They don't want to win. It's crazy. Nope. All right. Well, that's enough. Also, Paul Christ, Texas assistant, turns down the job at Iowa as offensive coordinator.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Talk about a bad job. I mean, who the hell's going to want that?
Career kryptonite.
No wonder why there was nepotism there. He had to hire somebody. Is the guy Ferris?
That's right.
Yeah. And shout out to GBO Farms here. He's talking about Marcus Arroyo. That's a great one. That was the UNLV head coach. Now, he didn't do great at UNLV, but he brought in that talent that Barry Odom walked into. And a lot of people think they pulled the trigger a little too early on Arroyo. He's a former San Jose State quarterback himself.
Hey.
Maybe that works out. Former Oregon Duck offensive coordinator with
That's
Justin
true.
Herbert. Yeah.
We're giving Barry Odom a lot of credit in year one. Is he deserving of it, or was that a lot of Marcus Arroyo building to that point? We don't know yet.
I like to think it was the 2 weeks Bobby Petrino was there. But
everyone on the team got laid.
Folks, we're going to talk Cam Ward to Miami. Matthew Saluka, the UNLV, all the transfer portal shit that's happening on our transfer portal episode that we'll be doing. But this is a Big Ten only episode. 18 teams. Holy shit. This is going to be a 12-hour episode if we don't get to it now.
Let's go.
All right. So we're going to analyze each and every team's schedule because I ranked all 18 schedules. I spent the past 8 days sitting there going through, and boy, are there some favorable fucking schedules. I wonder just who was getting the C notes and who wasn't. But before we do all that, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs and the National Football League, and they're bringing you an offer to help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code SGP. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code SGP. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 8777-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help's available for a problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 age plus varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restriction terms and responsible gaming resources. Whew. Whew. I made graphics. I'm over here. I'm a fucking, they call me Pick Picasso Dundee. How about that? Been making this right here. Let's
I'm
start.
sure they're going
off.
to look like Picassos.
I think it's just
Yes.
I think it's just Picasso Dundee.
There you go. I see what
there
you
you
did
go.
there.
There you go. Let's talk. We're gonna go team by team, alphabetically, and for some reason,
I think we need a graphic to fill that big black space in the middle of our screen.
Boom.
There we go.
Oh boy.
Need something to fill in that big black space.
Boy. In Illinois, it's not too late to go back to that awesome fucking logo you had previously. Let's talk. We're gonna go team by team here, and so I'm gonna rattle off what I think is the we're gonna go alphabetically, and then at the end I'll rattle off what I think is like the easiest fucking schedules. But I know we'll talk all about this. Illinois, first in the alphabet, I think, and week 0 they play Eastern Illinois. Watch out for those Panthers. They get
Quarterback
a bye
factory.
week. They get a bye week 1. Then week 2 they are home to Kansas. Clever little bye week. Then home to Central Michigan, that non-con. Well played. Kansas, your only tough team, and you load up a bye week. Week 4, you go at Nebraska. Then week 5 at Penn State. Then you get another bye week. Then you're home to Purdue, home to Michigan, then at Oregon, and then home to Minnesota, and then another bye week, and then home to Michigan State, at Rutgers, and at Northwestern. Folks, if you see in the left-hand corner of the screen, if you're watching youtube.com/the college experience, I think this is the hardest schedule will be ranked number 1. There's 18 teams. So I think this is the 6th easiest schedule in the Big Ten.
First, I think we have to, especially after talking about the SEC last year, we have to make sure everybody knows that the Big Ten has 9 conference games, which is a huge difference from the SEC. So when you're looking at out of conference, remember that the Big Ten automatically already has one more P4 game on their schedule because of their conference slate and how many games they play. That's
true.
A huge factor.
It is such a crock of shit that is still the case. It impacts everything. But anyway, go ahead.
True.
Yeah,
you wish there was
too.
some uniformity there. You wish with the P4, actually, you know what? I've argued this. I don't even think we call it the P4 anymore. I think we call it the P2. We call it the M2, the medium 2, and then we call it the G5. That's what's left. Because especially the way we're going, the SEC and the Big Ten are separating themselves from everybody else, not just the G5. But I'll get off my high horse there.
Yeah, P2. Is this a Bond movie? It's like, doesn't he have to report to? Is that it's M2? That's M2, right?
Well, that's the medium 2. That's the ACC and Big 12 right now.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. M2. Yeah, there you go. I
And
knew something was
that's what
Bond-related.
Yeah, England and Great Britain is number 2. They're medium. We're P2. America's P2.
Number 2.
Goddamn right.
Number 2.
America and
in the
China
UK?
are P2.
That's right.
You're talking number 2 in the UK.
Ireland number 1. That's right.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, look at this schedule. This is a great schedule for Bielema to have a big year, in my opinion. Getting the bye week before Lance Leipold comes to town. Now, I still think that's anyone's game. Is huge, but you gotta love the fact. You just gotta love the fact that you get Michigan at home. The last time you almost lost in it, or you almost won in Ann Arbor. I thought refs were terrible 2 years ago. Should have won in Ann Arbor. You don't have Ohio State on the schedule. You don't have USC on the schedule. You don't have Washington on the schedule. You don't even have UCLA on the schedule, or Wisconsin. So, like, to me, this is a really good schedule. Your thoughts, NC Nick, on the Illini's schedule?
A couple things. I mean, the Illini went 5-7 last year, and they did not play Michigan or Ohio State. So really, last year was their really nice schedule, because this year they have Michigan, and they have at Oregon and at Penn State, and they have 2 sets of back-to-back aways, which are tough. The first set is really tough at Nebraska, at Penn State, and then you finish it off with sneaky tough at Rutgers, at Northwestern, 2 teams that went bowling. I will say,
hold on. Whoa. Let's talk about that, because I don't know that they're really bowl teams. Someone had to win those shitty games.
Well, when there's 84 bowls, you're going to have like 6-6 teams. Okay?
I'm just saying, I don't know if at Rutgers and at Northwestern is daunting. I think a lot of teams.
I'll say this right now: Illinois doesn't win both of them.
Yeah, those might fall in the category, because games against Michigan, even Penn State, really, Oregon, those are kind of irrelevant. They're going to be losses. You know, what we're looking for is the middle of the meat of the schedule for Illinois, and to see if that's winnable. Avoiding Wisconsin, probably pretty big. Avoiding Iowa, probably pretty nice.
Ohio State,
Ohio State, obviously, yeah, but that would be a loss. I mean, yes, avoiding the super great teams is a nice feature, but assuming you're going to get 3 or 4 of those, then it's like the rest of that schedule. Are you going to be facing like an Indiana or an Iowa? And they managed to avoid the Iowas and the Wisconsins, and they got, like you said, Northwestern and Rutgers, who are decent enough programs. But I think the middle of their schedule is winnable, which makes that schedule winnable for Illinois.
No,
so tell me, guys. So tell me, once they hit their second bye, they have 5 games before.
They have 3 buys. They have 3 buys,
right? Because they play week 0.
Yeah.
Is the week 1 bye really a bye? I mean, I don't know.
2 weeks to prep for Lance Leipold, I think, is genius.
That helps. Okay, so their first 5 games, which leads into their second bye. What do you think their record is?
2-3.
2-3. I mean, maybe
they
3
can win at Nebraska.
Yeah, they could. 3-2 is looking at it positively, right? Optimistically.
Yeah.
And then you have the stretch of 4 games between this bye and the other bye, and best case scenario 2-2, because they don't beat Michigan, they don't win at Oregon.
Well, I don't know. I think Michigan in Champaign, you lose JJ McCarthy. If Harbaugh leaves and you lose McCarthy and Blake Corum and all those guys, I think that's much more winnable.
A lot of ifs.
I mean, but then do they take care of business against Purdue and Minnesota at home? Probably, but if not necessarily. I mean, it's not like
they could lose to Minnesota.
Purdue, they could lose to either one.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's Illinois here. No, look. All things considered, I agree. It's probably on the easier half of Big Ten schedules, but I still see. I mean, I think this is a good year where they can get better than 5-7. I think they'll go 6-6.
Yeah. To me, the thing you said, back-to-back away. Not a lot of teams have back-to-back aways. They gave them 2 sets.
2 sets,
right? That was the only thing that saved me from having this as like a top 5 easy schedule.
I think having Michigan and Oregon back-to-back is a gift for Illinois. You know, basically, you don't have to take a body blow before 2 games. Instead, you get those 2 in a row. You get those 2 losses out of the way. Yeah, are you pretty beat up for the Minnesota game, but at least you get it at home. I don't know. I agree with Nick. I agree with you, Colby. I think we're all on the same page. This is one of the better schedules. And the non-conference, Kansas has gotten better, but even that's probably winnable. Where is that game being played? That's in Champaign.
Yeah.
I still argue, though, even though I think the schedules are now tougher. So even though this might be top half easy, it's still a lot tougher than last year.
Somewhat, yes.
Last year they didn't play Michigan or Ohio State. Now they have Michigan and at Oregon right off the bat, and then at Penn State. I mean, this is tougher than last year for sure.
Sure. But they also,
and last year they were 5-7. Let's not forget.
And the Big Ten West doesn't exist anymore. So
that's true. That is true. Okay, let's shift over to what I think is the most genius schedule. The most genius schedule. the Indiana Hoosiers, they're non-con, by the way. Home to Florida International, home to Western Illinois, who's a terrible FCS, home to Charlotte. That's their non-con. Gives Curt Cignetti the fucking championship now. All right. Because look at this schedule. This is, to me, as good as it can possibly get if you're Indiana. Cignetti, if you want to get things going, I have this as the easiest schedule in the Big Ten. They have a week 3 away game at UCLA, but once again, that's like yes, that's a hard game. UCLA, I have as a top 40 team, but at the same time, the crowd's like half fucking empty. They're not going to get excited because
no one's going to be at that game.
Yeah, they're not
a lot better than at Washington or at Oregon for sure.
Yes. So I think you could reasonably start off 4-1 or 5-0. Maryland lost a ton. Charlotte, Western Illinois, and Florida International all suck ass. That UCLA game's huge, and then after that, even week 6, you're at Northwestern. You get a bye week after that, then home to Nebraska, home to Washington.
7-0 is not out of the realm of possibilities.
Yes, it is. We're talking about the fucking Indiana Hoosiers.
Hey, we're talking about Curt Cignetti.
Yeah.
We're talking about just finished 11-1. Curt Cignetti. He's bringing a lot of that. Did Jordan McLeod, has he committed anywhere?
Not yet.
Oh, I thought he.
No. They got Curtis Rourke though at Indiana.
That's right. What was it, Curtis?
Curtis Rourke, and these are the breaks.
These are the breaks. That's right.
Yeah.
And they brought a lot of that JMU talent over. I think they're gonna, at least have continuity better than most teams in year one have. Although that's
I can tell you this. I rated. So I went through every team. I sent you guys the spreadsheet here. First off, they only play 4 away games. There are only there was only 3 schools out of the 18 in the Big Ten next year that play 4 away games. Right, Indiana's one of them. They also get an FCS. Not every team in the Big Ten plays an FCS.
A lot more are now, though. Most are now.
That is true. They also have 0 back-to-back away games, and they only play what I deem 4 top 40 opponents, and that's Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, and UCLA. They don't play Oregon. They don't play USC. They don't play Penn State. They don't play Wisconsin. Getting all of those off the schedule to me is such a fucking break.
And a team like Indiana having 8 home games and 4 road games, that doesn't seem right. Usually it's a 7-5.
But non-con is actually the worst non-con in the whole Big 12 or whole Big 10.
For sure. That's a bad non-con.
It's loading it up perfectly for Cignetti.
Yes. Now, the funny thing about this schedule is that, when Indiana heard that they were not going to be in the Big Ten East anymore, they were celebrating. They're like, yes, finally, we don't have to play Michigan and Ohio State every year. Nope. you still have Michigan and Ohio State. But I do agree. I mean, look, you have 8 games on the schedule, which are, I'd say 50-50-ish, meaning that, yes, you might be a dog to Maryland or at Northwestern or at Michigan State, but not like a big dog. So really you're going to be a big dog against, and even at UCLA is not, I mean, you're going to be at least like a 10-point dog there, maybe.
Yeah.
But so at UCLA, Washington, Michigan, Ohio State. But if your other 8 games are 50-50-ish, that's a pretty good schedule.
Especially, I mean, this is the best schedule to me. And there's one other one that I could argue, but this schedule's fucking genius. And Cignetti can hit the ground running and go bowling in year 1. And build some momentum behind this program.
I mean, you might have heard about Cignetti. What did he say in his press conference?
Yeah,
I win. Look me up.
Yeah, he also said at half court of the Indiana basketball game. Yeah, he said, was it fuck Ohio State, fuck Michigan, or what did he say? He said something to that extent.
We're coming for your ass.
Yeah. He said they suck or something, or I don't know, something to that effect. And then he ended it with Purdue. Shout out to Purdue getting mentioned along with those other ones.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of the JMU heads are mad at Cignetti for leaving. Fuck them. Cignetti's my dude moving forward. I hope him great success.
And I'm so tired of butthurt fan bases because they're a middle of the road program and they lose the head coach. Same thing with Duke. A lot of Duke Twitter was angry. Like, dude, fucking just get over it. It happens.
Yeah.
People go to better jobs.
10 times more money.
Right. I swear.
But this schedule, guys, let's talk about the road spots because I always think that that's so key. You have a shitty non-con. You don't even go on the road in the non-con. You're at UCLA, at Northwestern, at Michigan State, at Ohio State. You only get 4 road games, and to me, there's only one like truly daunting place to go into, and that's Columbus.
10 years ago, I would say going into East Lansing would be very daunting, but that's not the case anymore.
Yes.
Well, I think we're sleeping on the fact
schedule.
They're going to bounce back as a program. They're not going to stay down for that long, Michigan State. But yes, I agree with you.
Year one though, it might take Jonathan Smith a little bit.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
This is a great question in the chat. If they win 10 games, does he leave after year one? You could build a case. You could build a case. What if Washington sucks? What if Washington sucks?
No, they're not. Indiana's not winning 10 games. Are you guys insane?
I'm just saying there's not a lot of meat on the bone.
Coach.
There's not a lot of meat on the bone. I was right with Louisville. I was right with
here.
Louisville last year. I'm just saying there's not a lot of meat on the bone.
Talent than Indiana did. Come on.
Michael Penix was at Indiana. He played for the national championship, buddy.
A couple years ago.
Look, a win at a sleepy UCLA, a completely empty Rose Bowl, a bye week before a home game against Nebraska. All the other games in the first half of the season are winnable straight up.
I even think the Washington game is very winnable in Bloomington because their whole team's in the portal.
9-0 Indiana. Mark it down.
That's hard to say.
Let's buy NC Nick some tickets. Let's go. I'll see you in Bloomington, buddy.
All right.
All right. Let's skip over to the next team that starts with the letter I. The Iowa Hawkeyes. Shout out to that awesome fire ass logo. I have this still as a pretty favorable schedule, but the non-con's a little trickier. Obviously, you got the Cy-Hawk Trophy with Iowa State. So out the gate, they play Illinois State FCS. They don't normally play an FCS, and this is what NC Nick's alluding to. You know, they don't a lot of times play an FCS. I think they got South Dakota State and North Dakota State, but that doesn't count as a true FCS in my opinion.
That's changing.
Yeah, so they all 3 home games: home to Illinois State, home to Iowa State, home to Troy. It's still way harder than the other 2 previous non-cons, in my opinion, because Troy's capable of beating you
for sure.
And then they hit the road at Minnesota. Then they get a bye. Then Then they're at Ohio State and home to Washington. That's a tricky 2-game stretch if Fisch gets going with Washington. Then at Michigan State, then home to Northwestern, then home to Wisconsin, then at UCLA, then a bye week, then at Maryland and home to Nebraska. All in all, this is hilarious. I was going through this and I was like, Ferentz is going to win 10 games again. I like the only flat out loss on this schedule is at Ohio State.
I'd agree. I think this definitely is one of the easier ones also.
Yeah. I had this ranked number 11 in case you're not watching on YouTube. Number 11 is in, as far as like there's 18 teams. So I had it as the 7th easiest schedule.
Wow, that's it. There's 6 easier schedules than this. I'm not trying to say this is easy. Out of conference with both Iowa State and Troy is tough, but both are at home. And
no back-to-back away.
Again, look at road trips. Road trips are at Ohio State. Chalk it up as a loss. Okay, get that out of the way.
At Minnesota, you forgot. Yeah.
Well, at Minnesota, it's not that bad.
If anything, I think you won it in week 4 as opposed to week 12.
Right. And at Michigan State, we've already established that that's not a hornet's nest anymore. At UCLA is a walk in the park. And at Maryland.
You get a bye before the Maryland game.
Yeah, exactly. So this sets up nicely for another pretty successful Ferentz year at Iowa.
11-1, baby. Back in the Big Ten championship game. Screw USC, Washington, Oregon, UCLA.
Again, I don't see 11-1. I see more 9-3, 10-2 at best. But Iowa's still going to be Iowa. Again, the funny thing. Well, I guess they get at Ohio State this year, so they're getting some of that SEC East. I'm sorry, not Big Ten East toughness. But still, not too bad.
I don't necessarily agree that 10-2 is the ceiling. I expect Washington to take a step back. They haven't been a national championship.
Washington's not winning in Iowa City. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. They're not winning in Iowa City.
I wish we had some West Coast teams playing in Iowa City in November.
Yeah.
I wish we had that
shit. They avoided that shit.
But you're probably right. But still, Iowa's going to drop a game somewhere. First off, they're going to lose to Ohio State in Columbus. Okay?
Yes.
And they're going to drop another one somewhere.
I can see Chip Kelly at the Rose Bowl maybe getting them.
Well, I mean, what did Iowa do this year?
They went 11-1 really, but the refs gave them 10-2 after that Cooper DeJean bullshit.
Yeah, and that was a loss to Minnesota. Okay, a bad Minnesota team. So whether it should be a loss or not, it shouldn't have been that close. If they're really that good of a team.
Well,
So-
we do need to see who the new
hold on,
offensive
though.
coordinator is. But
Well, and NC Nick, you got to also say that they lost Cade McNamara early in the year for the season, and Eric All and Lachey, their tight end. So like they lost their 3 best offensive players for the season by what, like week 4, 5?
Yeah, unlucky, but I mean, if you go down the stretch, they won 10-7 against Northwestern. They won 15-13 against Illinois. 13-10
but
against
they've been
Nebraska.
doing that shit for 20 years.
True, but when you have that many close games, you're bound to have something go wrong and get screwed like the Minnesota game, and that's what's going to happen. They're not going to go 11-1.
well, God forbid
Right
they
it.
actually get a competent offensive coordinator, because maybe
they're having problems hiring one so far.
Hey, Army went back to the triple option. It's not too late, Iowa. It's not too late, Iowa. Go back to what works. Iowa with that defense and the triple option, they would win 11 games this year. If they brought in Troy Calhoun as OC,
or just bring in a mobile quarterback like we've been saying.
yeah.
That unlocks another dimension of in an offense that lacks dimensions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Really
But
easy
don't you
fix.
shit on Deacon Hill, my boy, my boy. All right, folks, we're going to talk about the next team here. But before we do that, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform. It's U.S. based and available in 40 different states. P2P social betting is a new and better way to bet. Bet directly against your friends or other users on sports, politics, pop culture, and other events with verifiable outcomes. And they got tons of fun social features that will give it a feel like a social betting network. Cut offers lower vig and fully customizable odds as well. You can create your own bets, and Cut handles the payment side of things, so you never have to chase down anyone, for dollars essentially. Social features include group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles, fan groups, and much, much, much more. Head to cut.com. That's KUTT.com. Use that promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite fantasy players all season long. They got NFL, NBA, NHL, college football, and college basketball. Simply pick higher or lower on your favorite players' fantasy stats and cash in, folks. What are you doing? Sign up with the promo code TCESGPN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Once again, that's Underdog Fantasy, promo code TCESGPN. All right, now we will. They got McNamara coming back, right? McNamara, to me, is a solid college football quarterback.
Yeah,
A lot better than Deacon Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, way better.
Let's shift over and talk about those Maryland Terrapins. MJ Morris, Talia Tagovailoa. He didn't get he tried his 18th year of college football. They gave him the axe. They said, "Get the fuck out of here."
Your graphic work is pretty amazing. You are Picasso Dundee indeed.
Thank you, buddy.
And by the way, I finally agree with something the NCAA did, because come on, man. Move on, okay? Yeah. You're out of college. Please move on.
This non-con's fucking awful too.
This schedule is nice.
Yes, this is to me the third easiest schedule in all of the Big Ten.
And you know what's funny? Before we jump in deeply, they're giving easy schedules to like the
shitty
bad
teams
or average teams.
Well, no. There's one blue blood that I think you can argue has the easiest schedule in all the land.
Has the Big Ten not learned from the SEC? You load up your shitty teams with the really hard schedules, and you give your good teams a break. I mean, that's been their blueprint.
No,
for
but
15
I'm gonna
The fact that they still
years
have
now.
9 conference games, it should tell you everything you need to know.
That's
And NC Nick, I would argue this: the toughest non-cons or the toughest schedules to me are those teams with ridiculous non-cons. USC, UCLA, Oregon.
Right, because
we'll
they're still living in
Purdue
the
too,
fairyland
always.
of Pac-12, where you get challenged every week.
Yeah. Maryland here. Look at the schedule, folks. If you listen to this on the audio side, home to UConn, home to Michigan State, at Virginia, home to Villanova. So their non-con is UConn, Virginia, and Villanova. Fucking pathetic. Then they're at Indiana. So, I mean, look, they should be favored because they get State week 2 of Jonathan Smith's era. They probably should be favored in that game. I think they're probably going to be favored in their first 4 or 5 games.
UVA wins at home. I'll say it right now. Revenge.
I would like that.
Revenge from last year.
Then they go into bye week 6, so they could very well be 5-0. And coming out of the bye week, College Park's going to be rocking because Northwestern comes to town. See, this is my point, though.
College Park is not going to be rocking. It's no longer rocking for sports. It's a sad state of affairs. University of Maryland. You should have stayed in the ACC.
Amen. After Northwestern, USC comes to town, and this is what I mean by when we did the SEC preview. I got excited about a lot of the matchups. Even though I prefer Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12, I still thought like, wow, these are some great games. The Big 10, I find like a lot of their games, it's still they need to do work. They need there's too many shitty teams. There's too many shitty programs in there. Right. Because I'd rather see USC play Cal or Washington State than Maryland. You know what I mean? Or some of these other schools. But anyway, they're home to Northwestern, home, so they get a favorable little schedule there. Week 9 they head at Minnesota. Week 10 another bye week. Then at Oregon week 11. That's the big one. Then home to Rutgers, home to Iowa. Then week 14 at Penn State. But if you look at that road schedule, at Virginia, at Indiana, at Minnesota, and then your final 2 are tough. At Oregon, but then 3 weeks later at Penn State. This is a great schedule. There's no Ohio State. There's no Michigan. There's no Wisconsin. There's no UCLA. There's no Washington, right? They avoid. To me, this is just a very good schedule. Like there's no there, as far as top 40 teams to me that are on their schedule, I would say Penn State, Iowa, Oregon, USC are the only top 40 teams on that schedule.
Yeah. So again, before all the coaching changes, I had the very top rung of the Big 10 being Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, and Oregon, which they only get one of those 4. Now we could argue, is Washington really belong on that top rung anymore? Maybe not. So
I don't think so. Yeah.
So maybe what I did a week ago is completely pointless.
Welcome to college football 2024.
Either way, though, this is pretty nice, and I mean it sets them up to start early. I mean, you have a younger team now, a younger quarterback in MJ Morris, so at least you get a bunch of home games against very winnable opponents right off the bat. So yeah, this is very favorable.
I mean, look, they should be favored in probably 7-8 games this year. And they might even be favored against Iowa in College Park.
So I'd probably say their first 5 games are probably 3-2.
No.
I mean, without Tua,
4-1, maybe
5-0. They very well could be any of the above, but I don't feel great about it. But no, you're probably right. Okay, let's say 4-1. And then those middle 3 games between bye weeks, I'd say they win one of those.
But it wouldn't shock me if they won at Minnesota. I think they'll beat Northwestern.
They could easily be 7-1. They could easily be
7-1, dude. You guys,
they won't be. They won't be.
Yeah, I mean, come on. This is Maryland. This is Spade Loxley.
They started 5-0. I mean, that's what they do now.
Yeah, every year they start 5-0, and then they lose the rest of the season.
Well, that's going to be, yeah, okay, all right. So I would say 4-1. I'll say they win one more, and they have 5, and they probably get maybe Rutgers at home to get to 6-6 like they always do.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Lately they're 6-6, 7-5. I mean, 7-5 is certainly within. It's very reasonable. I don't know if I would go 8-4.
It's possible. I mean, MJ Morris is better than. I mean, they're more talented than UConn, Michigan State, Virginia, Villanova, Indiana, Northwestern, Rutgers, and the fact you get Iowa at home. I mean, shit. To me, they only
I feel like when we were just talking about Indiana, you're giving Indiana the win at home against Maryland, so you can't have it both ways.
No, I'm just saying though that from a recruiting standpoint, and if we're going to quote those things, Maryland is the more talented team. They'll probably be favored at Indiana. No, I'm going to take.
Oh, now you got Colby.
One of those games.
Now you got Colby citing recruiting rankings. You got him on the run now, Nick.
Right? Spade Loxley, yeah, because Loxley's going to really utilize all that talent.
Well, he normally goes 5-0 every year, and I would argue this schedule's first 5 games are just as easy as last year's.
It's possible.
I'm with Nick. They're losing in Charlottesville.
There we go.
No,
ACC,
they're
baby.
They're not. All right, let's move along to Michigan. The Wolverines finally, after last season's pussy ass schedule, they loaded up. Now, here's the thing. I had this as the 5th hardest schedule in the Big Ten, but there's a lot of meat on the bone, but they don't take a lot of trips. They only play 4. There's only a few Big Ten teams with only 4 road games. Michigan's one of them. I think Michigan fans, I know Beanick had messaged me saying next year's schedule's gauntlet. And I'm like, yeah, it's tough, but you still kind of duck. You guys got a little love from the Big Ten because lack of away games is a thing on here. No back-to-back away and only 4 away games when there's other teams with 5 and 6. Almost every team has 5 at least, except for a couple.
And are we really counting at Indiana as an away game? I mean, that is like the SEC giving Bama at Vandy, and I think who else? I think it was I think Texas they gave at Vandy.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
So the schedule though: home to Fresno State week 1, then home to Texas, then home to Arkansas State, then home to USC, then home to Minnesota. So 5 home games for Sharon Moore. I mean Jim Harbaugh. And then week
that's
6,
September for you.
Yeah. Then week 6 they head to Washington, which before I was thinking, oh, rematch of the national championship. Washington's going to get them. No, DeBoer's gone. That looks like a Michigan win. Then a bye week. Then they're at Illinois. Then they're home to Michigan State, home to Oregon, at Indiana, bye week, then home to Northwestern, then at Ohio State. The key thing here, what I want the audience to do, or you guys as well, they never give Michigan or Ohio State, for the most part, 2 really tough opponents back to back. Note that to me, because when you see some of these other ones, you're going to sit there and say, how the fuck is this fair? And this is something that's been happening for 20 years, in my opinion, probably longer. There's not a lot of meat on the bone as far as great back-to-back challenges. Your thoughts, NC Nick?
That's fair, but I mean, this is a hard schedule. USC, Washington, Oregon, Texas, Ohio State.
I had it as the 5th hardest schedule.
That's 5 games against like a potential top 10 teams or like, recent top 10 teams. I mean, this is so much harder than the previous couple of years. And then for them to throw in like Fresno, like what, some people are just going to scroll past that or gloss over that. That's so much harder than UNLV last year.
Yeah.
Fresno went into a Big Ten team and school and won last year. Granted, it was Purdue and it was close, but still, this schedule's tough, man. You get like I said, those 5 teams right there. That's almost half your schedule against top-notch opponents.
Noah says Oregon after Michigan State is a scheduled loss.
No, they're both at home.
But still, I think just the fact you get the tunnel shit going on, it's a rivalry game. The very next week to get the Ducks. It's tough.
A rivalry game. What was that score this year?
It is a rivalry game, though. They hate each other. They do.
I know, but it's not what it was when D'Antoni was there because Michigan State's fallen off big time.
I'm saying this.
That was 49-0 this past year.
This is a tough schedule.
You tell me scheduled loss after a team you beat 49-0 on the road last year?
This is a tough schedule, but I'll say this. It's still favorable. Like I said, they never give them 2 tough teams. They get a bye, like getting Fresno before Texas. Okay, it's Fresno. I'll give them credit that it's not an FCS, but and then you get Arkansas State before USC. You get Minnesota before Washington. You get Michigan State before Oregon. You get Northwestern before Ohio State. They looked out for you. I'm going to say Tony Petitti better be getting a fucking fruitcake for Christmas. All right. It's still a hard schedule. It's way harder than they've had in a long time. So,
well, the funny thing too is that they get 3 of the 4 new teams. They get USC, Washington, and Oregon, which is interesting. I think that's they're probably trying to build big TV games. And this is your big product here. Michigan's a big product. These new teams are a big product. But I find it interesting.
I mean, getting your first 5 weeks at home is fucking ridiculous to me.
But still, I don't think we can throw any shade at Michigan here because this schedule's so much tougher than the last couple of years.
Well, no, but what do you mean? Like that is why I will throw the shade, is because we think, oh, it's so much tougher, but they should have never scheduled those other schedules. This is a hard schedule, but it's not. True. You get your first 5 weeks at home. You don't have back-to-back away. Get the fuck out of here. This is not some gauntlet.
I'm not gonna say it's the toughest, but I'm not gonna say it's.
Do you see my ranking? Do you see my ranking there? 5th.
No.
5th hardest. Bottom left, right there. 5th hardest on the screen. Yeah.
Let's assume. Wow. Let's assume that Michigan returns Harbaugh.
You got some STDs last night.
Patty C. Harbaugh's gone.
Are we sure about that? He's seeking. Sure. He's doing the Dan Snyder routine and seeking to indemnify himself from.
I'm pretty sure he's
fired.
gone.
So he's going to interview with at least 3 NFL teams.
I mean,
right?
The Falcons and the Chargers. Are there any like stupider teams to hire with that are less fitting for Harbaugh? I don't know. I'm not convinced yet.
I just think, why are you even interviewing with them if you don't potentially?
Well, no, Nick, he interviewed the Broncos the year before.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
he does this all the time. He's boosting his contract. To his credit, I know he has the same guy. Was it? I don't know if it's Jimmy Sexton or whatever the fucking hotshot agent is, but that guy always has him basically threatening Michigan with leaving, and getting a better contract every year. It seems like. Either way, if they have now the quarterback situation is a big question mark, but Texas at home, USC at home, like you said, Washington with the new coach on the road, that's maybe doable. They whooped them the last 2 times they played them.
Schedule got easier there.
Yeah.
It might be 11-0 going into Columbus. I don't think so. There's a lot of hard games, but
I don't think so this year. They're going to drop
maybe 1 or 2
games.
Losses. Though. Yeah. Still, for those agent, 5 for 5 games Texas, USC, Washington, Oregon, and Ohio State. You would think that's like 5 losses.
I'm sorry,
but without a quarterback, and especially without Harbaugh. But if they have Harbaugh and they figure out the quarterback situation, because the running back Corum's gone, but Homeboy's coming back, right?
Donovan Edwards, yeah,
they're fine at Edwards running back. Don't worry about running back. Yeah. That other 3rd string running back looked pretty good too. So I wouldn't even worry about running back. Quarterback is the bigger concern.
They can go ahead and get Jordan McLeod. That'd be fine.
There you go.
All right. All right, let's do one more. Let's do it. Let's talk about Sparty. Jonathan Smith, year 1. I thought he had a very, very favorable schedule. To NC Nick's credit, I think some of the teams that aren't the greatest got great schedules in year 1. Well, we have that. So the schedule's loaded up here, and this is the one team with kind of an asterisk next to it because they're home to Florida Atlantic. They're at Maryland, and then they had a game scheduled with Louisiana that was canceled. I heard that they want to cancel that to schedule an FCS. So that could be a flex spot. That might be. Wait. I think it has to be there, right? It has to be week 3, or it could be week 7 theoretically. Either way, that Louisiana game's canceled. Then they're at Boston College. So the non-con is Florida Atlantic, most likely an FCS, and at Boston College. Not very daunting. Maybe at BC, I guess is a fair. I mean, I don't know. I guess BC is better than Michigan State, but I don't know by how much.
About equal, I'd say.
Then they're home to Ohio State, at Oregon. That's a tough. You see my point here? They never give someone else home to Ohio State and at Oregon back-to-back weeks. Pretty fucking brutal. They get a bye week, home to Iowa, at Michigan. Even that's a little tough too. Then home to Indiana, bye week again, at Illinois, and then versus Rutgers.
I mean, you can't ask for a nicer start or finish. Yeah, it's really that those mid 5.
It's a nice schedule. Games. There's no back-to-back away. The road spots are College Park. That's not lit. Chestnut Hill. That's not lit. Okay, Eugene is. Michigan is. Illinois, I guess, is turning into that a tough place to play, but I mean, not really.
You can almost argue that Oregon and Michigan are going to be losses regardless. So you might as well,
yeah.
you might as well take those losses on the road, so you have more winnable games at home. So the fact that you can end your last 4 games with 3 games at home, and it's Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers, that's as easy as it gets.
He's going bowling.
What is Jonathan Smith's typical turnaround time? It took him a little while to get Oregon State going,
but
right?
Oregon State was a disaster. It was a disaster.
Yeah. More so than Michigan State is right now.
Yeah, Michigan State has got a good NIL collective. I feel like it's going to be easier for him. I feel like they're going to go bowling this year, and that's
I feel like they have
easy.
I feel like they have a good chance at 6-6, which would be a nice first year for Johnson Smith.
All right, now let's talk about these. I thought this schedule, the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Good Lord. So I was doing my homework on this, and this is the way that I figured this one. I have Minnesota playing, first off, they play 5 away games, which is more than Michigan and Ohio State and a couple others. They also play 7 top 40 teams. 7. That's the most in anyone in the Big Ten.
Right off the bat, I'm going to argue with you about your 5 road games, because half of the Big Ten plays at least 5 road games.
Yeah, okay. But not Michigan, Ohio State.
But next year they will. So that flips every year. Now, if they played another one, but if they played another one, in the out of conference, then it would be tough. Yes, if you're talking about just the schedule, but I'm saying is that.
Well, how about this? How about this? 7 top 40 teams that I ranked.
Okay.
And those 7 top 40 teams coming into next year are Wisconsin, Penn State, UCLA, USC, Michigan, Iowa, and North Carolina. To give you an idea, I have Ohio State with 4. I have who else we did? 4 for Maryland, 4 for Iowa, 4 for Indiana, 4 for Illinois. 7
North Carolina as a top 40 team is questionable.
Really?
What did they
finish? To your point, Minnesota does not play the bottom of the league.
Yes.
Their one conference game against a team that didn't go bowling is at Illinois, which certainly is not an easy game for Minnesota. So, yeah, you don't see the bottom of the Big Ten on this schedule. This is tough.
They also got dealt back-to-back away games. Like I said, not many teams got back-to-back away games. They got dealt back-to-back away games, and like I said, 7 top 40 teams to me. That's pretty fucking tough schedule to me. I thought it was the 3rd hardest schedule in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get real tough after. Really, I mean, I think Iowa on the road or at home rather is winnable, but 3 tough games in a row there after that. I don't know. I think it's overall like a kind of manageable schedule.
I don't think so.
They have a 3-week they have a 4-week stretch of Iowa, Michigan, USC, and UCLA.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, but getting Iowa at home, I think, is beneficial. They beat them last year. If they can do it at home this year, they did it on the road last year. If they can do it, that's a 4-0 start. You figure they're going to lose their next 3 most likely, but even UCLA on the road, again, like we said, not a hornet's nest. Then the bye, and then the next 3 games after that winnable. Then the end of the season is tough.
My argument here would be that the very bottom rung and the bottom rung of the Big Ten includes Indiana, Michigan State, and Purdue, and you don't see any of those 3 teams on the schedule, meaning that Minnesota has 2 guaranteed wins. Rhode Island and Nevada. Everything else, it's a toss-up.
That's my point. That's my point. Schedule. You want Rutgers in Minneapolis. You don't want to go to Piscataway because that becomes harder now. I think the schedule's brutal. I think the schedule is going to have PJ Fleck, trending towards the other direction of the thing. Is he the right guy for the job potentially?
Well, we shall see, because if he does navigate it, and I think there is a path to do decent against this schedule. If he goes 8-4 against the schedule, then I think which is possible. I think he's gonna maybe get an extension. Who knows?
8-4 with the schedule would be a very nice season.
Yes, because I only have them favored in about
probably 6-6 at
I only have them favored in about
5-7 maybe.
4 games. 4 games I would have them favored in.
North Carolina at home. Do you have them favored in that one?
No.
No, North Carolina whooped their ass last year.
North Carolina lost to Virginia last year.
Okay,
North
but
Carolina,
that's a rivalry. You talk about that. You say like that's just like North Carolina is more talented than Minnesota, dude.
Colby, they had a bad year.
Hold on, Colby. I'm kind of struggling to find the 4 games. I mean, Rhode Island, Nevada.
I put Rhode Island, Nevada, Maryland, and Rutgers as potentially the 4 games they could be favored in.
Are they?
And
favored
that's being
at
generous.
Illinois?
I think Rutgers is going to be favored.
Yeah. I was going to say, are they favored at Rutgers? If so, it's not by more than a field goal.
Yeah.
What has PJ Fleck done? I think we're having a little bit of short term, like
he was
focus
5-7
here.
last year.
Okay, but prior to that, he had several good years in a row.
That was Big Ten.
Yeah, they've taken a little step back, but
Big Ten West glory.
maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm not so pessimistic on Minnesota. I think they go bowling this year.
Who else wants to see PJ Fleck back at the MAC?
Hey, Buffalo, pick up the phone. All right, let's talk about the next team here. We got the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I love this schedule. 10th. Well, how do I say this? 10th hardest, or you could say the 8th easiest. I think it's a good schedule though, because once again they kind of just start the full month at home to UTEP, home to Colorado, home to Northern Iowa, home to Illinois. All right, so you get 4 weeks at home for Matt Rule. Then they're at Purdue. They could be 5-0. Now I kind of think Colorado will clip them because Colorado's won 3 straight.
It could be 7-0. It could be 8-0.
Yes.
Easy. Is this your easiest schedule?
No, buddy, I have that graphic in the bottom left. 10th is where I have it.
10th.
Yeah. Because of the road schedule. At Ohio State, at USC, and at Iowa. That is the difference to me. No?
All I know is that it start. No, like granted, the second half of the schedule's tough. It just starts off so nice.
But who's their quarterback?
It can't be worse than Jeff Sims.
That's true. Exactly.
It can't be worse than who was the backup that came in? Oh, geez, I'm not gonna be able to get it.
Heisenberg.
Heisenberg or something, right? I forget his name.
Heisenberg.
I think it's over with a G, but yeah. But dude, I mean, their first like 8 games, right?
Yeah.
The first 8 games are all very winnable. How many teams in this conference, especially like an average Nebraska squad, have their first 8 games that are all winnable?
Wait, isn't Ohio State their 8th game?
9th, I think, right?
No, because the bye week, right?
9th. No. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm looking at the spring game here. Sorry, this graphics throw me off. You're right, Patty. Okay, first 7 games.
But at the same time, like I kind of think Rutgers is better than Nebraska right now. Wouldn't shock me though, because it's in Lincoln.
It's in Lincoln. That's shit. I mean,
I do think Colorado is better than Nebraska right now.
Yes. I'm not saying they're going to win them all, but I think with those, I think they can go 5-2 in that stretch.
True. And then the backside though. What's up?
I was going to say Matt Rule. Temple 2-10, then 6-6. At Baylor 1-11, and then 7-6 year 2. So what was he? 5-7. If we're talking about he's averaging a 5-game improvement in year 2 from year 1.
But once again, they were in the Big Ten West. Their schedule was easy. They weren't even good last year. They got 5 wins, like I said, because they played each other. This is like getting UCLA, Ohio State, USC. Wisconsin, Fickell year 2 should be a lot better. And then at Iowa. And then I would expect Deion and Colorado to be a lot better in year 2. That is enough for me to think like it's tough. It's still a nice schedule. Like if I'm at Rule, I'm happy with the schedule.
I think they can win 7 games here.
They could.
And if you start off 5-7, and if you jump, even if you go 6-6, you know, as long as there's improvement, as long as you go bowling in year 2, I view it as a success. And I think the schedule lays out nicely enough to do that without too many problems.
Yeah. All right, folks. I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. So stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. We're also brought to you by the SGPN merch store. 15% off everything in the store now to the end of the month using the promo code PLAYOFFS. Yeah, we're competing against other shows too. So college football experience fans, get out there, get some college football experience t-shirts. All right. Once again, promo code PLAYOFFS over at the SGPN merch store. Shout out to the chat. Back on the college football experience, Josh Lower says, I can't watch this show. The basketball picks are terrible. Well, I don't think, have we picked any basketball games?
I thought Colby's actually having a fire night in college basketball, but
yeah.
You know, don't let that get in the way of your narrative there.
Yeah. I'm glad to see you can read the fucking title. College football experience, you fucking jackass.
And if you can't watch it, then feel free to not watch it.
Yeah. It's crazy how the world works. Right? Let's talk about this Northwestern Wildcats. Great year. 7 wins in the regular season. Now, can David Braun do it again is the question, because you're not in the Big Ten West anymore. Once again, I know the Big Ten did them a solid. I love this schedule for Northwestern.
Yes and no, but go ahead.
The non-con, home to Miami, Ohio, which is replacing a ton. Home to Duke, which is replacing
schedule loss.
Duke does have their number, but at least like you're catching them with a brand new team. And then home to Eastern Illinois. Like, they could easily be 3-0 in the non-con. I know Miami, Ohio won the MAC, but they were a senior-ridden team. I kind of like the non-con schedule. Then at Washington, week 4, all of a sudden this thing clears up. And you say, well, that looked like there was no way we were winning it before. Maybe you get Jedd Fisch in this first month. Maybe you get a bye week. Then you're home to Indiana. Then at Maryland. Those are boring games. I'm already falling asleep thinking about them. Then you're home to Wisconsin, then at Iowa. See, at Iowa is a daunting place for every team in the Big Ten except Northwestern. I feel like Northwestern has the most success at Iowa. It's strange. I know Pat Fitzgerald's gone, but I'm saying they had
10-7 at Wrigley Field.
They're always successful. That like they play Iowa better than most teams. Then they back to back away. So at Iowa, then at Purdue, then a bye week, and then home to Ohio State. Now, this is my point, NC Nick. Home to Ohio State and at Michigan, back-to-back weeks. Oh, yeah. Hey, they never do this to anyone else. Fuck you, Tony Petitti, and all you Big Ten people out there. And then they end the season home to Illinois.
I mean, it's kind of funny how you mentioned that it lines up nicely, because you have a team from the Big Ten West, and now they play Ohio State and Michigan in back-to-back weeks. And then you throw in at Washington, a team that just played in the national championship, to go along with at Iowa and at Purdue, which usually is no big deal, but it's the second of a back-to-back right off that at Iowa game. So I'm looking at this and I find it pretty tough.
Really?
At least in conference.
But you thought about this with Washington a week ago. I don't think it's as daunting now.
Washington is not going to completely fall off the face of the earth. I would be shocked if Northwestern
goes their quarterback? Because Will Rogers hit the portal again, right?
They'll get somebody, but come on. You still think Northwestern is going to go into Seattle and beat the team
they're going to lose that game
in the national championship?
No, they're going to lose that game, but I think it's much more winnable. I'd say it's about like 40% more winnable than it was a week ago.
How much was it a week ago? 0?
Pretty close to it.
It's still not 60-40.
They just beat. I don't know. I feel like Northwestern's not horrible.
No, they're not. But I'm saying
8-5.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like to me the non-con's 3 very winnable games.
Yeah. See, then the non-con is what saves it. So overall, not too bad. But in conference, I think it's pretty tough in conference.
I judged each schedule as a whole. I didn't do them by the Big Ten, but I still think like it's not that bad. Like they have success at Iowa. Now I know that at Iowa, I still rank that as a top 40 team. All right. So to me, their top 40 teams they got were Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Washington, which is 5. But I thought they had one of the lighter non-cons.
Agreed.
And I like their home schedule for the most part. Their home schedule: Miami, Ohio, Duke, Eastern Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin. Now the Ohio State one's a dagger, and then Illinois. Like they can beat. I wouldn't be surprised they beat every team, but Ohio State there. Patty C, your thoughts?
I mean, outside of Michigan and Ohio State, I think every single game on that schedule is winnable just because, like you mentioned, they seem to play Iowa pretty well, even on the road. And who else on that schedule is an unwinnable game? I guess you could say at Washington, but week 4 with the new coach.
You get them in the first month. That's where you want to get them. Yeah.
Right.
And
I think it's a great schedule.
I think that's the week after the Apple Cup too.
I don't know. It's just hard for me to get my head around a great schedule when you have Ohio State, Michigan, and Washington on it. And that was 3 of the top 6 teams in the country last year.
True.
Well,
you
when you are
Indiana,
expected
Maryland,
to lose,
Purdue, Illinois.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of it's pretty nice. Overall, I'd say middle of the road schedule.
I don't know. I thought it was one of the easier ones when I did it. All right, folks. Well, look, if you're watching this on YouTube, stay put. But I'm going to conclude the audio side of part A here as we jump into side B. So stick around. This is the college football experience. You better start thinking about yours. All right, we are back on the college football experience B side, and we are going through all of the 2024 Big Ten schedules. And now we get to jump over to the letter O. And to me, you want to talk about favors.
Oh, man. This is Michigan's schedule last couple of years.
Look at this Ohio State schedule. There's not a more pathetic fucking schedule out there. And with them going to these mega conferences, this is the easiest schedule. Doing SEC and Big Ten, there's nothing easier than this. Nothing easier than this. I had this only Indiana. I had Indiana and Ohio State schedules lined up next to each other. The only difference is Marshall is a tougher non-con game than Charlotte. That was the difference on Indiana being number 1 easiest schedule, Ohio State being number 2. This schedule, and this is what I mean, folks. First off, the non-con is home to Akron, home to Western Michigan, a bye week before home to Marshall.
This is Michigan's schedule last 2 years out of conference.
Yes. Then, but that shouldn't happen in an 18 team conference, right? You should get more tough opponents at Michigan State, then home to Iowa, then at Oregon, bye week, home to Nebraska, at Penn State, home to Purdue, at Northwestern, home to Indiana, home to Michigan.
Let me just say one thing though. There's a handful of SEC schools who play 1 P4 out of conference and 3 nobodies. And again, with a 9-game Big Ten schedule, that's basically the same as Ohio State's doing.
True, but to compare it to the other Big Ten teams, you're just sitting there like, this is fucking pathetic.
I want to compare it to some of the SEC schools, though.
Fair. I just think, man,
even still, there's just more. What SEC schools have one elite team? I think the at Oregon games really I guess you could say at Penn State, but they're kind of just like tier 2.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 3-game schedule. It's Oregon, Penn State, and Michigan. And I think if basically with the expanded playoffs, if Ohio State can go 1-2 in those 3 games, they make it.
I even think they could lose all 3 and might make it.
That would be, I mean, you have to see what else is going on in the country, but that would be questionable. But come on, if you go 1-2, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's not even good. But basically have a 3-game schedule and go 1-2, and they're in the playoffs. So right now, chalk it up. Ohio State's going to be in the playoffs next year.
100%. If you can find a bet out there on that now, Ohio State is going.
They're going to have a bye.
Yeah. Yes,
but what is it? Will Howard the projected starter?
Yes, the Kansas State transfer.
Right.
We'll see how that works out.
Well, it's
But
gonna be
they-
better than last year. And then
their run game with Judkins and
Judkins.
Henderson coming back.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, that's nasty.
And look at who they're playing. I mean, they're playing nobody. This is what I mean, though. The Big Ten still has so much dead weight that you can deal at a conference schedule like this. You're just like, is
even the at Penn State game. I mean, are we really trusting Franklin, Penn State, and Drew Allar to beat Ohio State here? I think
Oregon and Michigan are the ones, right?
Yeah.
And if Harbaugh's gone,
Penn
then it's
State
just like
could.
Oh, they could, sure.
They've
I mean,
done
that's
it
why
one every 10 years.
Yeah, that's why we're saying it's a 3-game schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought this was the second easiest schedule in the Big Ten, and I think it's arguable that it's the easiest because it's just they don't have an FCS. Indiana played an FCS, and then Marshall is better than Charlotte. So I thought Indiana had the easiest, but this is fucking a cakewalk. No back-to-back away. There's certain teams doing two sets of back-to-back away within the Big Ten conference scheduling. I find it to be a crock of shit. I don't understand how they. It's just rigged to me. It's like you can't tell me that this is random. You know what I mean? You can't tell me it's random when this happens this frequently. I don't buy it. Anyway,
Ohio State is our favorite to win the Big Ten.
By far.
Correct.
By far.
Yeah.
By far. To me, nothing even close to it right now. But
I think Ohio State is going to be better than this past year. So, yes, I agree, Patty.
Yeah. Let's talk about the new team, the Oregon Ducks, because once again, they didn't get the memo that Ohio State just. So let's compare these non-cons: Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, compared to these new schools, all 4 new schools. I want you to highlight all 4 new schools because they are still scheduling like Pac-12 teams.
Somebody tell them they're not in the Pac-12 anymore. You don't have to do this. Like I give you credit for doing it, but you're stupid to do it.
Yes.
Nobody else does it.
Home to Idaho, who was an FCS playoff team. Once again, they should have no problem with Idaho. Then home to Boise State, and then at Oregon State in the Civil War. Those are your 3 away games. Those are so much more difficult. Like Idaho would lay. I'd lay 14 with Idaho against Akron. You know what I mean? Like those are. I don't know what they're doing, but then after that,
on top of your 9-game conference schedule. Sorry, but I feel like I have to repeat it again.
Yeah. Then they get a bye week after the Civil War. Then they're at UCLA, home to Michigan State, home to Ohio State, at Purdue, home to Illinois, then at Michigan, then home to Maryland, then at Wisconsin. Then they get a bye week and they're home to Washington. Now, here's my only other argument I'll say. They did look out for Phil Knight. They didn't give him 2 tough games back to back.
Does Washington have a bye week before that too?
Yes, they do.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I think at least that's fair.
Yeah.
But I mean, I see Michigan, Ohio. No, that's Michigan. No, yeah, Michigan, Ohio State, and Washington on the schedule. That's tough. Throw in the Civil War on September 14th. Man, I don't know if I can get used to that.
In Corvallis. Yeah, no, it's horrible. It should be the final game of the season. It's pathetic that these filthy TV execs can't figure this thing out. But
let me ask you guys something. What do we expect Washington to be this year and then moving
Oregon or
forward?
Washington?
Washington.
I think they can be a power. I think they should be a power. I mean, I think they've been a great program with the exception of like an 8-year stretch in the 2000s since really the 70s.
I mean, Chris Peterson took him undefeated in the regular season. Kalen DeBoer did the same thing. DeBoer.
Heisel had him at the top. It was really just the Willingham era that was terrible.
I don't see Washington pulling a TCU and going 5-7 this year.
Yeah,
but
they got to fill that roster. I need to see who's on their team.
So I think
they're going to be able to. We see them as like, I guess a 9-win Power 5 team or Power 4 team, kind of on average moving forward.
8-9 somewhere. 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Okay, but Oregon, I think, in other words, we project as a program, regardless of coach, to have a little higher ceiling. I mean, I guess that's been the case, kind of.
I'd agree.
Okay,
at least until Phil Knight dies.
Right.
So, but this is still like it's a tough schedule. It's tougher than the other ones, but it's still like I did think the Big Ten looked out for him. They didn't give him like 2 really tough games back to back weeks.
And I mean, usually you would say Oregon State has a good chance, but they're on a brand new head coach too. So
and you want to play them the first month. If it was the final game of the year, you'd worry more because the brand new head coach, the brand new team.
So I don't see why they're not 5-0, and then Ohio State comes to town. Say what you want about that. Then you have at Michigan. Other than that, I think this is probably I think it's at least a 10-win team here.
At least.
Yeah,
they could lose one. I would project 9-3, but
no,
really,
I think with what they've done in the portal, getting Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore at the quarterback spots, and then they just landed that receiver. Who'd they get? They got.
I guess they host Ohio State.
I'm gonna say right now, Oregon and Ohio State are in the playoffs next year.
I agree. That was my assessment. They're punch their ticket right now. Both are in the playoffs.
And I think the question is, does the Big Ten get a third? I would say probably. And if so, it'll be Michigan.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see what shakes out with coaches and stuff.
A lot of these teams playing each other here.
Really? I didn't think. I mean, look, I thought this was. I thought
only
this
one
was
team
one
can
of the
win.
harder ones.
I'm just saying. Oregon plays Ohio State. Oregon plays Michigan. Ohio State plays Michigan.
But 2 losses will get you in.
Yeah, you can afford more losses now. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Now with the 12-team playoff, you can afford 2 losses. And especially that's the case if you're in the Big Ten or the SEC, because they will take a 2-loss team from one of these conferences over a 1-loss team from the Big 12 or the ACC. Precedent has been set. That was the biggest thing with the Florida State thing this year, is that precedent's been set. Record no longer matters because there's no longer a P5. There's no longer a P4. There's a P2.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll see a lot of calls going in the way, especially at the end of the season, to create more 1 or 2 loss teams at the end of the season, as opposed to maybe making one team 12-0 and another team 9-3. If there's a chance to make one team 11-1 and another team 10-2, I bet we see a little more of that. Anyway, that's speculation.
I would say Oregon is a slam dunk to make the playoffs next year. Like, I think they'll get Ohio State or Michigan, one of those teams, and then there's not really that many trap spots to me. Like, the fact they get Oregon State first month is such an advantage. Maybe Wisconsin gets them week 12.
Could that be a little tricky, like in mid-November? You know,
maybe.
But Wisconsin was like an average team this year. Wisconsin, was
they were not very good.
Right, they were like Northwestern this year.
All right, so let's move along. But I thought the non-con there. Oregon's got to learn from Michigan and Ohio State. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Next up, we go to the Penn State Nittany Lions. I actually thought this was. I had this as the 10th. I still think it presented some challenges. Like the first month, if they can get through Morgantown week 1, which I actually think West Virginia is going to be better. Garrett Green comes back. I actually think West Virginia could be a sneaky team that could beat them. If they can get through that game,
environment.
Yeah, Penn State will be favored, but if they can get through that game, after that, home to Bowling Green, bye week, home to Kent State. That's your non-con. See, take notes, Oregon. Bowling Green and Kent State are fucking trash.
Schedule the MAC.
Right? Yes. Then week 4, home to Illinois. I'm sorry, week 5. That would be because of the bye week there. Home to Illinois, then home to UCLA. So you get 5 out of your first 6 games at home.
Should be 5-0.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, probably. Then you're at USC, and that's where things get interesting. You get a bye week after that. Then at Wisconsin. Now this is the gauntlet to me. Look at that 3-game stretch. At Wisconsin, home to Ohio State, home to Washington. Now the Washington situation, a week ago when I was looking at this, when we thought DeBoer was still at Washington, I was like, damn, that's a 3-game stretch right there. But now I think it lightened up a little bit. At Wisconsin, home to Ohio State, home to Washington, then at Purdue, followed by at Minnesota, and then home to Maryland. I don't think it's that hard of a schedule.
No, it's not, because you don't have Michigan. So I think you gladly trade
or Oregon.
Yeah, so I think you gladly trade Michigan for either the USC or Washington game.
Or they don't have an at Iowa. I think at Iowa is always one you circle.
And I mean, they do have at Wisconsin, but like we were just saying, Wisconsin's not the same Wisconsin as it was 5 years ago. So very, very winnable.
That's why I think you mentioned Michigan as the team to get the third Big Ten team. I think Penn State could be that third team. As long as they get past West Virginia week 1, I think they'll be that third team potentially going to the college football playoff.
James Franklin.
They're
Drew
almost Drew Alar is a big question mark, but assuming they're able to get past West Virginia week 1, 5-0 seems like an almost certainty, right? I mean, they're not going to lose to UCLA and State College. The road trip to USC, obviously a big threat there, but then the bye week.
It's not like that's not winnable, though. I mean, USC is on Penn State's level. It's not like it's a step up.
Beat them in the Rose Bowl, or no? USC ended up coming back. No, did Penn State? Well, who won that game? I keep forgetting. I think
Penn State got him, right?
That was like 10 years ago, but
yeah,
I think Penn State did get them. But either way, yeah, that at Wisconsin, then at least with the hosting Ohio State and Washington, those are both at home, so maybe they get one of those. And I think if you get it out of this schedule with 2 losses, you're probably in the playoff.
Yeah. They're a team.
Yeah, that's very possible. You're right. I mean, and look, I'm throwing a lot of shit towards Drew Alar, but maybe as a junior, as an upperclassman, he makes a step up. I mean, he was a top-notch recruit for a reason. The dude has arm talent. As bad as he looked at some points this year, maybe he can improve. I mean, Penn State needs him to improve for sure. But also, their receivers this year weren't as good as in previous seasons either. So,
but they do lose Manny Diaz on the defensive side of the ball. That's something to monitor. They brought in Kansas' offensive coordinator. That'll be pretty interesting to see too. But I do think if you're a Penn State fan, you're thinking you can get into the 12-team playoff next year for sure.
Yeah, to James Franklin's, I guess, credit, he loses the games he's supposed to lose and wins the games he's supposed to win most of the time. And It looks like there are 10 games he's supposed to win, maybe.
Yeah.
And I see a good point, because if there was a 12-team playoff last 5 years, how many years would have Penn State have made it?
A lot.
At least a couple. At least a couple.
All right, folks, look, we're going to talk about the rest of these teams. But before we do that, I want to tell you the college football experience is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs. And look, they're bringing you an offer that can really help make the playoffs truly electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. So what are you doing, folks? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code SGP. Once again, new customers can bet $5, get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code SGP. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help's available for gambling or problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 age plus varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours at issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility, deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. All right, we are back on the college football experience. And yes, we do have Penn State looking mighty set up to make a run. Wouldn't it be great if West Virginia caught them game 1?
West Virginia returns a quarterback on a lot of skill positions, but one of the big reasons why we were kind of high on West Virginia last year was that they returned the line play.
That's true.
This year, I think this year that a lot of those guys go. So I still think that's a dangerous game, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that game was closer than the final score indicated a year ago.
Oh, I had money on West Virginia, and Franklin ran it up. He fucking scored with like 10 seconds left.
Let's hop on over and talk about a team. I know Patty C loves talking about like traditionally Purdue always schedules ridiculously, in my opinion. Like the old school Big Ten. They would schedule 11 Power Fives and 1 FCS or a group of 5 like Fresno State or something. You look at it this year. Why do you put a bye week 1?
Got to get ready for Indiana State, man. It's a big game.
This is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen because
then the rest of their conference schedule just continues that theme.
Yes. What are you doing? So by week 1, then they're home to Indiana State, then home to Notre Dame, and then at Oregon State once again. So basically 11 Power Fives in Indiana State.
No, that's an extremely terrible move. Like a bye is good, but also live bullets early in the season are really important too. I think every team that is smart should schedule week 0. But
Yes.
not scheduling week 0 or week 1, it's like, dude, you're setting yourself behind the 8 ball for like the first 5 weeks of the season.
It's so stupid. But they've been doing this, whether it was Brom, whether it was the coach prior to Brom. I'm drawing a blank. He's former Ohio State guy.
A week 1 bye. This is rare. A week 1 bye is very rare.
Boston College did it like 5 or 6 years ago.
I was gonna say I can't remember another team that did that.
Boston College under Adazio did it. This is just absolutely terrible scheduling. It's just terrible scheduling. And then 11 Power Fives, they get a back-to-back away of at Wisconsin and at Illinois. So let me just run through it for the audio side of this. Bye week 1, home to Indiana State, home to Notre Dame, at Oregon State, home to Nebraska, at Wisconsin, at Illinois, home to Oregon. Bye week, home to Northwestern, at Ohio State, home to Penn State, at Michigan State, at Indiana. Once again, I will draw up the point that they get Michigan or Ohio State and Penn State back-to-back weeks. I'll also say coming off a back-to-back away game, they get Oregon at home. I think it's a brutal schedule. I had it as the 4th hardest schedule in the Big Ten, mainly because you're playing 11 Power Fives out of 12 games.
Right. And teams that were very good last year, like Notre Dame and Oregon State. I mean, this is brutal. Like Little Shrimp Lips in the chat says, Joe Tiller's not walking through that door. No, he's not. Neither's Drew Brees. Neither's Raheem Mostert.
But this is why all those schools are so dumb to vote to expand. They held a vote to expand. Purdue, you're crippling your own fan base by voting yes. You're taking the check for a short-term game. Long-term, you're going to end up kicked out of the Big Ten. And you're gonna ruin the culture that you have there. Now, I'm not saying they have a rich history of culture, but I'm saying is that I don't understand why they would vote for these other teams to come in, because from a talent perspective, remember under Brom's top receiver couldn't make grades. They didn't play him. They suspended him the whole year. They're gonna lose a lot.
The question is, do they get kicked out? Because if they don't get kicked out, they don't lose, because
they're gonna get kicked out eventually.
Well, maybe you're right, but right now they value the money more so than the chance to win, and that's what they're doing. And we see this.
They won't get kicked out.
Why?
They won't get kicked out because Matt Painter's there, and they're kicking ass in basketball.
Well, in January, not necessarily in March.
Yeah,
but that's a different subject.
It's like,
and Patty C, as much as I wish basketball mattered, it really doesn't. It's all football. So who knows? I mean, I hope Colby's wrong. Who knows long term what happens here?
But why would you vote yes?
Short term is that they want more money, and programs that don't really necessarily want to win, they want the money because it fuels all their athletics. It fuels so much. I mean, they bring in a lot of money. I mean, Why does a team talk about college basketball? Why does a team like some of these like SWAC schools, why do they go on the road for like 15 straight games to start the season? They don't want to win. They're just cashing checks.
But you don't think it's going to ruin the
SWAC
fan interest?
And Purdue are slightly different.
It's going to ruin the fan interest.
Tough.
Yeah.
Well, true. But I mean, Purdue still packs it. And I agree. I mean, it's not, if I was a Purdue fan, it's not what I would want, and I
would argue they packed it because Jeff Brown made them competitive. I don't know if that's sustainable. Look at their previous coaches after Tiller, they had a couple different coaches and they all sucked and fan interest wasn't there.
Right.
Fan interest will feed your fucking program. I mean, I think the schedule is really tough, and I think I think Ryan Walters might have made a mistake by accepting the head coaching job. I don't know. I mean, the money is the money, but
again, so the people that choose the money over competitiveness, I don't think they necessarily care how packed the stands are. As long as the checks keep rolling in, they've decided that that's more important.
But you do know this is inevitable, though. If you let TV execs do this, these shitty schools, if you're not drawing a rating because of fan interest, they all connect. Yeah. They all connect. And eventually that will boot you out. If you're letting TV execs have Rutgers and USC in the same fucking conference,
right?
Then that's going to end up being the end result, because they're going to say, well, wait, why do we care about Purdue? They don't draw a big TV number.
Right. Why do they get the same amount of money?
Purdue probably made their Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, yeah, why is Purdue making the same amount of money as Ohio State?
It's coming down the pipeline.
Point.
Next 10 years, it's going to happen. They're going to sit there and say that. Yeah.
But I don't know if some of these school presidents or whoever are looking that far ahead. They're just cashing the checks.
Yeah. Patty, what were you going to say?
I'm just going to say, someone's got to lose these games. Purdue probably, as soon as they voted USC and UCLA and Washington and Oregon in, they realized that the days of them punching their ticket to the Big Ten championship game are gone as of this or last year, I guess. So might as well make the money with football and try and do the Vanderbilt route. Be a competitive baseball team. I guess Purdue will make it basketball, Hey,
I mean, do we even know Purdue voted yes? I mean, because usually the majority, I don't know how the Big Ten voting goes, but I would imagine you need a majority.
Yeah. I mean, look, but I'm saying all of them. Like, to me, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Purdue, Nebraska, Northwestern, Indiana, Rutgers, Maryland. What the fuck are you doing voting yes?
We don't question Rutgers coming on to the Big Ten. They're money as an institution, their whole identity as an institution has come up so much just by being in the Big Ten because they never had any football success. Well, guess what? Purdue pretty much has had no football success. Anyway, I'm sure you have a audio clip for us on that one, Colby. But what's it called? Yeah. They just accept where they are and whatever, get that money and win in basketball.
Yeah, and who knows? There's not some kind of backwards dealing where like if you don't vote yes, then we are going to move to kick you out or something.
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
I don't know.
Not that one, but
not the clip we were looking for.
It's a deep cut. It's a deep cut.
Yeah, I don't use it that frequently, so I'm really I'm all over the place here.
All right, moving along.
Yes, let's move along to the great University of Rutgers because I thought the Big Ten did them a ton of favors. What a schedule. What a schedule here. I thought this was the third easiest schedule in all the Big Ten. First off, the non-con is a fucking joke. Home to Howard, home to Akron, a bye, and then at Virginia Tech. Thought it was one of the easiest non-cons out there. Then they're home to Washington. Now that looks so great. You're getting Jedd Fisch in his first month at Washington on the road on a crazy road trip. Then you're at Nebraska, then home to Wisconsin, home to UCLA, then at USC, then a bye week, and then home to Minnesota, then at Maryland, then home to Illinois, and at Michigan State. Folks, this is Rutgers now's the time because let me tell you, I went through all this shit. First, they only play 4 top 40 opponents. They get an FCS. They get a terrible Akron Zip team. Yes, they do have 5 away games. That is more than, Penn State or Michigan and Ohio State. But this is the year to do it, man. Getting Wisconsin to come to Piscataway right now, I think they're kind of on the same playing grounds. This is the year to do it. To me, like the only flat out obvious loss is at USC. I think every other game you could make a case is winnable.
No, this is so nice. I mean, this is what every Big Ten East school other than Michigan or Ohio State wanted. No Michigan or Ohio State. They don't have either of those schools.
They don't have Oregon either. So you get
so nice.
This is the greatest schedule you can. Like I said, they have 5 away games. Ohio State and Indiana only have 4. That's the only difference. And they also play at Virginia Tech. The non-con's harder than Indiana's in Ohio State.
But also, so they pick up 3 of the 4 Pac-12 schools, but 2 of those games are at home totally across the freaking country.
Yeah.
So their one trip is at USC. Okay, chalk that up as a loss. But this is a sweet schedule. This is as sweet as it gets.
Dude.
I mean, just look at the last 4 games. Minnesota, Maryland, Illinois, Michigan State. Nobody in the conference has that easy of a November. That's a sweet ass November.
They brought in the Greek rifle too. Your boy.
Oh yeah.
Look, am I crazy to say like I can't rule them out of making the playoffs?
No, yes you are.
Yes, you are.
They just won 7 games this past year? 7-5.
Dude, come on, man. There's still losses on the schedule.
Where's the flat out loss besides USC?
Virginia Tech is looking like a tougher game, but they did beat them last year.
They averaged 7.3 yards of rushing.
That was a different. Virginia Tech in November was different than Virginia Tech in September last year.
I'm still favoring
Rutgers. And this one's at
winnable. It's winnable. It's winnable.
Yeah.
Okay. But still, no, this team is not going to go 10-2. With the Greek rifle at quarterback?
I don't know. He's the backup. They have Wimsatt. No, not Wimsatt. The other guy still. Evan Simon.
Okay.
Don't you doubt the Golden Guido. He was bound to get this thing going at some point.
This schedule is, I guarantee you, the Golden Guido's popping fucking the best champagne after he saw this schedule because he's just like, wait.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, this is just glorious. Load up on Rutgers, folks. Rutgers to the first. Look, first they played the first college football game. They're going to be in the first 12-team playoff. Let's go.
Boom. It's all circular.
This is the hardest schedule to me. The second hardest. I think you can argue it as the hardest. The non-con. UCLA. At Hawaii. At LSU. Home to Fresno State. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Why do it to yourself?
So another thing is they did the early bye week. So week 1 they're at Hawaii. Week 2 they get a bye week. I hate that approach personally. Yes. Then you're home to Indiana, and then look at this gauntlet here: at LSU, home to Oregon, at Penn State. This is my point. This is my point here. They would not do this to Michigan, where you gave them Ohio State Oregon and Penn State back-to-back weeks. They would not do that. Then, if that isn't bad enough, after so at LSU, home to Oregon, at Penn State, that 3-game gauntlet. Then you're home to Minnesota, then at Rutgers, then you get a bye week. Then you're at Nebraska, home to Iowa, and then this part at Washington, and then home to USC, and then home to Fresno to end your season. Tedford's beaten Fresno beaten UCLA the past 2 times he's played them. This is a ridiculous schedule. Chip Kelly's fired after this year.
You know who else is going to be fired after this year? Or maybe after next year with this football schedule? Mick Cronin, because this schedule is going to put all the pressure on the basketball team, and they're not doing so great either. So,
and
new coaches abound at UCLA.
How about a schedule? I know they already talked about this, but the fact they're playing at Hawaii and at Rutgers in the same schedule is the furthest in the history of college football.
These guys, you know what? When I travel for work, I try to build up my frequent flyer miles. That's all they're doing. They're trying to get a lot of miles, trying to get the free flights for the off season, but seriously,
well, they were broke, right? They got to find some ways to make up.
Well, they got that Big Ten money. They're not broke anymore. That $1 billion TV contract. I don't even understand. This one, Chip Kelly. What do you like? Let's try to best case scenario this thing.
Hold on, real quick. I mean, Colby, you've always said that Oklahoma has a chance to be the new Arkansas. Yeah. I would say it doesn't quite fit exactly, but I would say UCLA has a new chance to be the next Arkansas, if that makes sense. So basically the next Minnesota or something.
Yeah. I mean, but let's build a scenario where they keep Chip. How would they keep Chip? He's got to win at Hawaii, home to Indiana, and they better beat Oregon week 5 and start off 3-1. They're going to lose at LSU. They're going to lose at Penn State. Take care of business against Minnesota. Upset Rutgers.
They could be 5-2 there. They could be 5-2.
They can afford to lose to Oregon too and be 4-3. The expectations at UCLA aren't 10-win seasons.
But still, he's on. They almost fired him this year. So I mean, they won 7-8 games this year.
I don't see anything better than 7-5. Or I mean, it's a real stretch to say 8-4 here.
I mean, call me crazy, but I just don't see a path for him out of this. They're going to lose a lot of these games. I think they might even have a losing season.
Who's going to be their quarterback now that
Ethan Garbers and Schlee are back?
Still there?
But both are
They're
back.
still back? Oh my goodness.
But Carson Lexington Steele, he went pro.
Right.
I don't know. I just think that's a gauntlet of a schedule.
It's tough.
Look, let's be honest here. Which of those games are guaranteed losses? At LSU, you have to figure for UCLA.
At Penn State. At Penn State.
Probably
I would say
at Penn State.
Oregon, probably. Right?
Even at home?
Yeah, they don't beat Oregon, man. When's the last time they beat Oregon?
Oh, I think Oregon rolls in and beats them.
Yeah.
Probably, yes.
Then I would also say probably at Washington, because by that time, week 12, I just can't see them beating Washington. And then the USC game, maybe they get them.
Chip Kelly's going to have to do a hell of a coaching job.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say the one thing that it looks like we don't have the Southern California teams going into like cold weather in November. Is that coincidence?
Cold. Yes. Yeah, it is. No, that's on purpose.
Seattle's
that's on purpose.
cold, but I'm talking about like, like Midwest cold. Like,
they did
about,
that
like,
shit on purpose.
Michigan, you know. That seems like that is definitely on purpose, right? That's not a coincidence.
Yeah, that's definitely on purpose. That schedule is absolutely brutal, folks. All right, look, I want to tell you folks out there that the college football experience is brought to you by Cut. Yes, Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US based and available in 40 different states. P2P social betting is a new and better way to bet. Bet directly against your friends or other users on sports, politics, pop culture, and other events with verifiable outcomes. Plus, there's a ton of fun on social media. Their social features give it a feel of kind of like a betting social network. Cut offers a lower VIG and fully customizable odds. You can create your own bets. And they handle the payments. Cut does. You don't have to worry about chasing down old Billy Ray in the fucking waiting for him to come out of his job so you can get your fucking $50. No, you don't have to do that. All right. Social features include group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profile, fan group, and much, much more. What are you doing, folks? Head over to cut.com. That's KUTT.com. Use that promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite fantasy players all season long. They got NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, and you better believe they got college football. Simply pick higher or lower on your favorite players' fantasy stats and cash in. So what are you doing, folks? Sign up with the promo code TCESGPN. Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Once again, that's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. All right, we are back on the college football experience, and this next schedule is the hardest schedule. They don't play FCS teams. Shout out to the USC. I talk a lot of shit about USC.
Dude, but they're insane. Insane.
They never play FCS. They never have. One of the only schools to ever do that. And they decided to schedule super aggressively. And guess what? They play. I was doing my homework on this. 11 of their 12 opponents were in bowl games a year ago. USC starting off the season week 1 in Las Vegas against LSU and Brian Kelly and his family. Week 2 they're taking on Utah State. Then they get a bye week. Then they're at Michigan, home to Wisconsin, at Minnesota, home to Penn State, at Maryland, home to Rutgers, at Washington, bye week. Then home to Nebraska, at UCLA, home to Notre Dame. Yes, folks, they play 11 Power Fives. That's 9 conference games, LSU and Notre Dame on top of it.
Is this the toughest schedule in the country over Florida? I'd say yes.
I think it is. I think it's harder than Florida's because at least there's a couple gimmies. Like now, Florida's, you could argue, like Florida's November is insane.
Yeah. And like we were saying earlier, the SEC schedule is definitely harder than the Big Tens.
True, but the mileage that USC is going to be doing here is at Michigan, at Minnesota, at Maryland. You know what I mean? The sheer mileage, and then the fact you're taking on 11 Power Fives. Them in Florida, I think, have to have the easy. I mean, UCLA is top 10 hardest as well.
Yeah.
But this schedule, Lincoln Riley's going to be fired. I don't see like they better beat LSU week 1. I'll say that because I don't think they'll beat LSU and Michigan.
No,
I think I love Wisconsin potentially being able to get them the week after Michigan or Minnesota, one of those ones. Then you still got Penn State. I did my numbers on this, right? My numbers of top 40 teams that they played is absurd. They're playing 6 top 40 teams out of their 12 games. 11 of their 12 teams were bowl teams a year ago. The only team that didn't was Nebraska, and that was Matt Rule in year 1, and they catch him at the end of year 2. Good luck.
So they have 5 road trips and a neutral site. That's tough.
5.5 road games, basically. I mean,
who does Michigan have
lose Caleb
before
Williams.
the USC game?
What's their ceiling here?
Their ceiling is if they beat LSU.
10-2?
Yeah, if they beat LSU, they could. They could get Penn State in LA, and then they lose at Michigan, and they lose to maybe Notre Dame or UCLA or something.
Are they guaranteed to
11-1,
lose at Michigan? It's September. It's the 4th week of the season. Michigan might have a new coach, a new quarterback.
Well, I'm just saying, there's just no way that they run the table. So if they beat Michigan, then Penn State gets them. If they beat Penn State, then Washington gets them. It's just too big of a gauntlet. It's too big of a gauntlet.
They went 8-5 last year. You know, it is,
and they lose Caleb Williams,
right?
And they lose Dorian
Miller,
Singer,
Moss.
and they lose,
Come on.
They lost a ton of talent, man. They lost a ton of talent off of that team. I don't know. I don't know how they get out of it.
I still find a path for like 10-2 if like everything breaks right. I don't predict 10-2. I predict something closer to their record last year. This is tough.
I think Lincoln Riley's going to get fired.
Notre Dame might be a loss too. Lincoln Riley may.
This is year 3.
I'm surprised he hasn't interviewed for the Chargers job already right now. I'm not going to lie.
Just to get in front of it, right?
Yeah.
Why would they schedule LSU and Notre Dame?
That's insane. Fucking insane. Yeah. On top of a 9-game conference schedule. Can I say it again? Do I need to?
That's. I mean,
old habits die hard.
I mean, look, Utah State at home should be no problem, but they went bowling last year. They're
way
team.
way better than an FCS. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Utah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to show up against Utah State. You can't just totally phone it in.
This schedule's I mean, he's gonna get fired. He's gonna get fired. What would not get him fired? 9-3, 8-4. He's gonna get fired.
You think so?
Dude, they're not happy here. And I live in LA. I mean, they weren't happy this year with Lincoln Riley. I just don't know.
They were almost in the playoff 2 years ago. USC is a fickle fan base.
I feel like if he was 8-4, he probably gets one more year, right?
Yeah, 8-4 saves him, I think.
You guys are closer to the situation than me. I couldn't be further away. I'm like Rutgers over here.
What if they lose to Rutgers? That could be the one. That could be the one. Yeah, imagine you lose to LSU and Michigan out the gate. You get Wisconsin, but then you lose to Penn State, and you're 3 losses in, and then Rutgers comes in and fucking knocks you off. That's the one, man. That's the one.
That'll send him over the edge.
Happen, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they're doomed. I best case scenario, you think it's 10-2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this right now. You know how certain teams, for no reason, do really well against other teams? UVA, Miami has always had their number a little bit for some reason, at least to be competitive in those games. I think Rutgers is not going to be at all, scared of the USC Southern California mystique. I think the jersey in them is going to go and be like, fuck these guys. They're little pussies. We're going to walk in here and kick their ass. I think, watch out for that moving forward.
These nice sunny weather, people, come on. They're not tough. They're not tough. They don't know what a New Jersey winter is all about.
I don't know. I thought that schedule was just fucking insane. And I like Patty C's synopsis on Rutgers being the new kryptonite of the Trojans.
I like it. All right, let's close it out. What do we got? 2 schools
We
left?
got 2 left. Let's go to the Washington Huskies. Year 1 here of the Fisch era. Fresh fish. We got the non-cons home to Weber State, home to Eastern Michigan, and home to Washington State in the Apple Cup week 3, just like the Civil War. What's crazy is I think Washington State might be able to clip them now that they're going to be breaking in a brand new head coach. Now, if it was in Pullman, I would love it, but
Right.
Yeah. Maybe they go 3-0 there. Then they get Northwestern in the Big Ten home opener. Then at Rutgers, they kind of did them some favors the first 5 games. Fisch could go 5-0 there before they host the Michigan Wolverines, a rematch of the national championship week 6. And then week 7, I guarantee you they lose that game. How much do you want to bet? I guarantee you off of Michigan, they lose in Iowa City.
I just wish it was November 12th instead of October 12th.
True.
But you're probably right.
And then they get a bye week, and then they are at Indiana, followed by home to USC, and then at Penn State, and then home to UCLA. Let's talk about that 3-game stretch right there. Look at their final 4 games: home to USC, at Penn State, home to UCLA, at Oregon. Fuck you. That's a welcoming fuck you to the Big Ten right there.
It's almost like they're still in the Pac-12 and throw in like a top 10 at Penn State team, which is that's very tough.
Yeah. This is what I mean, though. Call me crazy, but I'd rather see Washington's schedule in the Pac-12 this past year than this schedule.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Like overall, you're saying that you're not too excited about Washington, Penn State.
Like Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC. I was more excited about the matchups when I went through and did the schedule.
Well, those are continuous states. I mean, that's still it's still close together. I mean, I found myself slightly bored.
Slightly bored going through these games. I was like, Northwestern, Rutgers, Iowa, Indiana.
That
boring.
goes to the point that how bad the Big Ten was this year, other than Michigan, and I guess Ohio State. Ohio State wasn't even that good this year.
Yeah,
but there was a lot of bad football in the Big Ten this year, no doubt about it.
It's just boring. Like I'd much rather see Arizona. Washington,
I've been telling you the Big Ten West has been boring for a decade.
Yeah. It's. I'm just not excited. Like if you compare, what I did was I compared both schedules.
You're not saying anything controversial here,
but I think a lot of people think that these new teams coming in make it super exciting. I would argue that compare last year's the Washington schedule to this year's, and last year's was way more exciting. Week in, week out, it was like Utah, Oregon State, Oregon, and it was like 6 straight weeks. And you look at this, you're just like, I
will say that it's more exciting for the Big Ten schedule because, as I said before, the Big Ten has been so predictable the last 5 to 10 years, where it's basically been 2 teams. So now we get a little bit of new blood in here, some good blood like Oregon, like USC, like Washington. So as far as the Big Ten schedule, it's more exciting. As if you're looking at just the Pac-12 teams that came over, I can see your point.
Yeah, it just seems a little mundane to me.
Let me throw something at you here. Okay. Washington, let's pretend they're able to maintain their level of play that they did this past year, or even be close to it, right? Weber State, Eastern Michigan, Washington State, Northwestern, all at home to start the season, wins. Rutgers, win. Michigan, say Harbaugh leaves, new quarterback. That's a long trip. We know teams from the East going out West don't typically fare great. Win. 6-0. At Iowa. They're a better team than Iowa, straight up. Okay, yes, it's a road trip.
No, this is where it stops.
7-0. Bye week before going to Indiana. 8-0. Hosting USC. 9-0.
The best Ohio State teams, when they play at Iowa, they lose. With Michigan, when they play at Iowa, they lose. Get the fuck out of here with this. Michael Penix is gone. Their whole team just hit the portal. No fucking way. They will not. I will bet you right now.
And Ohio State both had offenses in the 50s this year, if I'm not mistaken. Washington, the Pac-12 has offenses that Iowa never sees throughout the year. You're not playing fucking Michigan, cold weather, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and just doing it better than Iowa does.
Ohio State is a finesse team.
Okay.
Ohio State is a finesse team.
Put the fuck out of Iowa several times. It's the fact that Iowa was able to get them once or twice.
To Patty's point, Tennessee just put up 35 on Iowa in the bowl game. Now
that was not in Iowa City.
It wasn't. It's in
Orlando or wherever.
Fair point.
Either way, I don't know. I 8-0 my ass. Jedd Fisch. Who the fuck's their quarterback? Who's their running back? Who's their whole fucking team? It's January 17th.
9-0. 9-0.
Get the fuck out of here.
'Cause
Who's next?
Yeah.
USC coming to Washington isn't a guaranteed win for USC. 9-0. Look out
No
for
way.
it.
No way. All right, folks, before we get to Wisconsin, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off the first month today. Start researching. Start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. We're also brought to you by the SGPN merch store. 15% off everything until the end of the month. Everything in the merch store, even the fucking dog bowls. We get SGPN dog bowls. All right. Pick Dundee t-shirts. All right. And we're competing against other shows. So get in there and get a college football experience t-shirt. All right. Once again, SGPN merch store, promo code playoffs, and you're in. All right. Let's get back to this because final team on the slate here.
The Badgers.
Well, did I fuck this up? Are the Badgers not here? Are the Badgers not here? Oh, there they are.
There they are. There's that fine looking Badger in his sweater.
Big year for Luke Fickell. And I can tell you it got a lot easier knowing Nick Saban ain't coming to Madison week 3. So the non-con, home to Western Michigan, home to South Dakota, and home to Alabama.
They're still not beating Alabama.
I doubt it, but
This was like
Too
what,
early in the season.
it's a lot more winnable.
This was an average, very average Wisconsin team that almost lost to
They
Georgia
didn't beat
Southern
a team
at
with a
home.
winning record last year. They did not
Almost
beat a
lost
team
to
with
Georgia
a winning
Southern
record. Yeah.
at home.
So that's their first weeks. Their non-con. Their first 3 weeks are non-con games. Western Michigan, South Dakota, Bama. Then they get a bye week, and then they're at USC at the Coliseum, followed by home to Purdue, followed by at Rutgers and at Northwestern, back-to-back away. And then how about this little stretch here? Home to Penn State, at Iowa, home to Oregon. Well, they get a bye week in there, but and then they close out the season at Nebraska and home to Minnesota. I had it as the 9th hardest schedule, but right in the middle. You know, obviously it was a lot harder a week ago when Saban was at Bama. You're like, whoa. But getting Alabama, USC, Penn State, Oregon, and Iowa in Iowa City is tough.
That's 5 incredibly hard games.
Yeah.
I mean, Wisconsin is lucky to go 2-3 there. I mean, it could be a lot worse. They could go 1-4,
Tell you
0-5 in that stretch.
Ouch.
What's that?
Western Michigan or South Dakota? They're winning both of those. They're winning both of those.
Yes.
I don't think
Yeah.
they're 2-0 regardless.
Yeah.
Look, I think 5-1 is probably what they're looking at. I don't know. Maybe
What?
actually the USC road trip. Sorry. 4-2 is what they're looking at. 5-2 actually, because Northwestern could be
But
a
they're
win
not gonna
on
win
the
both
road.
those.
I
Both
wouldn't
those
give you.
back-to-back
I would
away.
not give Wisconsin both those back-to-back aways.
At
I would
Rutgers
not
and
do
at
that.
Northwestern.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
I think
you're
1-1
right.
is more realistic. Then home to Penn State, they're losing at Iowa, and then I think they're best case 7-5.
That's a tough stretch.
Yeah,
man.
it's a tough schedule. Yeah.
Pretty brutal.
If
Pretty
that's
brutal.
your 9th toughest, it's kind of middle of the pack, and this looks pretty damn tough to me right here.
Yeah, it was like 7th before the Saban thing, or 6th before the Saban thing. I don't know.
That's
I just
still
think-
a loss regardless. They're not
I think
beating.
so.
Yeah.
I
fucking-
think so.
Yeah.
Oh, and just I don't even know if, like, by the time they get Nebraska week 13, like, Rule will be in pretty much year 3 at that point.
That's a tough loss. That's a
Yeah,
tough
what I'm
game,
saying.
man. I mean,
yeah.
All right, so it's like, where are the gimmies?
The gimmies are Western Michigan, South Dakota, and Purdue.
That's it.
That's
and,
it.
and that Purdue game. All right, yeah, okay, that's a gimme. There's 3
They should be
gimmies.
favored pretty solidly hosting Minnesota at the end of the year. would
I
think.
don't
There's
know.
3 gimmies, and there's probably 3 other wins, but I'd be hard pressed to say Wisconsin goes anything better than 7-5.
Yeah.
Like Mick, Colby said, What gets Fickell fired here? You know, what are the expectations?
Yeah, it's year 2. I mean, if you're not bowling, that's If he's bowling, he probably gets the 3rd year, right?
Are the folks in Madison going to adjust to A, not being in the Big Ten West, and then B, having 3 new blue bloods introduced into the conference, and Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State that they're going to be playing more frequently, presumably? I don't think they're ready for that. I don't think their minds are wrapped around it. I think Fickell's in a bad spot.
Yeah,
I thought it was crazy to do what he was doing. I thought the hire didn't make sense to me in a way. I thought I don't know. I thought it was. I'm on record this very show. I said that hire's not going to work out in Madison. Right. It's not going to work out. We'll see. It should be fun to watch, folks. We are the College Football Experience. This is a 2.5 hour show. Just talking Big Ten. Don't worry. We got the Big 12 coming. The ACC, 17 teams. I know NC Nick's excited about Cal and Stanford.
Don't forget SMU.
Give NC Nick a follow on Twitter at NC__NICK. Patty C is on Twitter at PattyC831. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD, the College Football Experience. Year round, we talk college football. On Twitter at TCE on SGPN. And check out the College Basketball Experience. We'll be live in about an hour talking college hoops. Wonderful slate today. And obviously the road to March continuing to heat up. We also have the FCS College Football Experience. Subscribe. And the College Baseball Experience just dropped a Pac-12 preview. We're talking SEC College Baseball tomorrow. And check out the Sports Gambling Podcast as well. We got a transfer portal episode coming. Big 12, all that good stuff. So buckle up. We're just getting started here. This is the College Football Experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.